Like to call the May 26, 2022 council meeting to order at 1:25 PM. Machines open for roll call.
Verbal, yeah.
Let the record show all 9 council members are present. We start on the agenda, Ms. Beck, now.
Agenda item 2, executive session. 2A, executive session pursuant to LRS 42:17A10 to receive attorney-client privileged information related to Clean Tanks LLC versus Plaquemines Parish Government, case number 67-345, 25th Judicial District Court, Division A, Attorney Jacques Tuzet.
Are they here yet?
I don't see them out
They
there.
should be walking in any minute. They were on the 115 boat in
Can we do the next item?
Agenda item 3, proclamations, there are none. Agenda item 4, status report by the parish president. He's not here yet.
Go to bids and advertisements.
Agenda item 5, bids and advertisements. 5A, a resolution authorizing the acceptance of bids for furnishing janitorial supplies for a period of 1 year for use parish-wide and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Konovich.
I'll offer ask for a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Blink. Any questions? Audience? Machines open.
Verbal, yes.
Let the record show it was 9-0 passed.
Agenda item 6, beer and liquor licenses.
You have any queue in? Mr. Gui? Dr. Gui?
I have one, Maria's Kings of Liquor, Tobacco, and Food, 8475 Highway 23.
Any others? Mr. Gui, you offer? I'll second. Any questions? Machines are open.
Verbal, yes.
And it passes 9-0.
Agenda item 7, building permits. 7A, construction permits. Would you like to take 1 and 2 in globo?
Yes.
7A1, Harvest Midstream, application number 2022-519, dated May 12, 2022, anomaly repair on an existing 12-inch BOA 4 pipeline, Barataria Bay area. Councilmember Blink. 7A2, Cox Operating LLC, application number 2022-520, dated May 13, 2022, re-enter restore production to SL 195 QQ well 43, well number 43, Quarantine Bay. Councilmember Bartholomew.
Do I have an offer?
Offer it.
Offer by Mr. Blink. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. LaFrance. Any questions? Machines open.
Verbal, yes.
Passes 8-0.
Agenda item 7B, Deep South RV Park, Michael Valiant, Trailer Park Renewal, 32368 Highway 23, Empire, Louisiana. Councilmember Blink.
Mr. Blink offers there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. LaFrance. Any questions? Machines are open.
Verbal, yes.
Passes 9-0. Can we go back to 2?
Agenda item 2, executive session. 2A, executive session pursuant to LRS 42:17A10 to receive attorney-client privileged information related to Clean Tanks LLC versus Plaquemines Parish Government, case number 67-345, 25th Judicial District Court, Division A, Attorney Jacques Tuzet.
John's the lead on that, he's not here yet, so you mind passing it?
All right. We'll pass on it again. Can we start 9?
Agenda item 9A, ordinances and resolutions on second reading, final passage. 9A1, an ordinance.
Withdrawn.
I was wondering how long it was going to take to get that point.
9A2, an ordinance to divide and consolidate precincts assigned to redistricting plan and establish polling places, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Konovich.
I'll offer ask for a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Roussel. Any questions? Audience, machines are open.
Verbal, yes.
Passes 9-0.
Agenda item 9A3, an ordinance requiring a traffic and safety evaluation for any necessary building permits for any new commercial or industrial development within 300 feet of or in a school zone, requiring council approval before the issuance of any permits for the same by the permit department and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Gooey.
Dr. Gouy offers there a second. Second by Mr. Alborough. Any questions? Mr. Roussel?
Yes. Are you offering with changes? Or are you
No.
offering in original form?
I have the original version because it pertains, the geographic boundaries of this is District 4. If any council member had the draft done for all school zones parish-wide, but I wasn't going to take that on myself.
All right.
The one I'm presenting is only for District 4.
Okay, then the legal department's not here to voice their opinion. I thought they had some comments about,
Well,
anyway. But let's get to the issue that I have, is that obviously this is to address a permit that's already pending. Is that the way we're at?
That permit initiated the thinking, yes.
We're on item 300 feet within a school zone for council review or approval. And it's strictly to District 4 now. And I thought I had heard the legal department have some concerns about it just being for one district. Is that not accurate?
I haven't heard any concerns about it being for one district. I mean, you have traffic. I mean, the main issue is traffic concerns on the highway, and obviously Belle Chase probably has a lot more congestion than, say, South Plaque, et cetera. But so I think there's nothing inappropriate about regulating it just to the Belle Chase area, but it was my understanding that some council members maybe expressed a preference to have it apply parish-wide.
Well, when Dr. Gouy contacted me about it, I brought up Saturday, they had a spill right next door to South Plaquemines, and if it was during school, and it could have had a problem if, H2S gas, or if the gas it did spill exploded or whatever, On both sides of South Plaquemines, you got facilities.
Right.
Okay.
So I think we had drafted an amendment to include it to be parish-wide. Now, I don't know if Mr. Bartholomew wants it on the East Bank or not, but if that's an amendment y'all want to proceed with, I think one's been presented.
The amendment is there. My offer is for the Belle Chase area. We've got industrial zone right across from the high school, some commercial across from OLPH. Any other area can be amended later and added. If I was only prepared for parish-wide in case someone wanted to do that, but I have not spoken individually as to whether Phoenix, for high school, or I did talk to Hobble about.
But I know they're not moving the facility, so what's there is there,
Well,
Right.
I'll offer it as is. And
Yeah, I don't think it's a matter of what's there. I think it's a matter of concerns regarding new, and I think that's written in the ordinance. It says new commercial and industrial development.
Okay, well, let me finish my concerns. It's my understanding that this property, they've been having a sign on there to open up a donut shop there for well over a year. And I'm not sure when the people were notified that the rules are changed and how long the application has been in. And if we sit here and we talk about traffic and we talk about business friendly and how we want to encourage a business, but yet we got hundreds of trucks running up and down the highway right now and nobody says anything about them. But when we have a small donut shop wanting to open up on the highway, all of a sudden it's an issue. So I think we send mixed messages, when we go back and tailor the rules to try to stifle a small business versus opening arms for huge businesses. And, that's what my concern is. And I don't know if anybody's here representing the donut shop that wants to open, but I've been reading that sign for well over a year. And if we're going to come in and change the rules on them now, I'd like to know if they're aware of it and what their thoughts are.
Well, there's no doubt, everyone here is aware that the reason this is put before us is that initiated the thought process as to the council having no say-so on these types of construction permits. And across from Belle Chase High School, of course, we've got the big curve, and we've got an industrial zone. Across from OLPH, we have a commercial zone. I spoke at length with the owner of the property, and I told him my concern was safety. The children in the area, they catch the bus right at that piece of property. It's a very narrow piece of property. It's going to have ingress and egress on the Highway 23. It's going to have ingress and egress onto Time Acre Road, which is a terrible road, and it's surrounded by homes. The area is well patrolled. I spoke with the sheriff's office. They're constantly putting deputies at the OLPH on the grounds to stop speeders. So it's not a good area. However, today, this doesn't do anything to that permit. All this does, it addresses Belle Chase Highway in regards to safety and traffic. I explained to the owner that should the time come that it gets brought before the council, because I don't know if this is going to pass, that he would be notified, his attorney would be notified to come in and plead their case. And at the same time, I told him that those who have sent me letters and phone calls, I have the list, have legitimate concerns, and he would have the opportunity to address. At that point, if we reach that point, we have 9 members on this council that can assess the information from both sides and make a decision based on the information they have. I'm not taking a unilateral approach to stop anything, but I am taking a unilateral approach for my district and the residents in my district to make people aware that this is the problem. If this doesn't pass today, the issue is moot. If it passes today, there will be a time in the future where that permit will come before us. And at that time, we have to make a decision based on how we feel at that time individually. And that should be based on the information that's presented by me, the residents in the area and the concerns they have, and the gentleman who has applied for the permit. So that's my thought process right out in the open, and whichever way it goes, and we just move on. But I feel like it does need to be addressed.
And my thought process is, when did the gentleman file the application for the permit, and how long has it been lingering before it was issued? And did the individual wait for a period of time, and then all of a sudden the rule get changed?
Well, I think that's all going to come out because I don't have the specifics. I know I was notified by the permit office several weeks ago. How many weeks, I can't tell you. I was notified of it, and I notified the residents in the area, and I started looking at, talked to the sheriff's office about traffic, talked to some of the people whose kids catch the bus and get left off on both of those streets, which is Time Acre and Truel, and they were very concerned about the safety for their kids and if there's anything can be done about it. Well, I called the permit office and they says, we have nothing. The administration will just run this through and it'll be done. And I felt like we needed to have a hearing on it. And during that thought process, I realized that we really should have something that each council member can look at if it involves their district and it impacts a school zone. So that's what this does. And as I said, it's up to each of us as individuals to decide if it's important or not. And if it's not important, we vote no. If we feel it's important, we vote yes and we move on. There's no question about the permit. When I asked the permit office, when that sign went up for a few weeks, did they have a permit? And they said, no one's filed a permit. The sign came down, and I forgot about it. And I said, well, Amitra, if you do get a permit, please let me know. And it was, it might have been a year. It might have been a year. I don't know the exact time. So it's a decision we have to make. Benny is absolutely right. The man filed a permit. He was told by the permit office this is what he had to do, and he followed through. So that will all be explained if that permit does come before us, if this passes and it comes before us. So I'm not trying to hide anything. I've had heartache over this because I know what he went through to get that permit, but I also have heartache because of the location and the number of kids that are there, and especially in the winter when there are no lights. I mean, if the sun's not up, and they're standing out there waiting for the bus. And there's a pile of them on Time Acre, there's a pile of them on True Lane. They catch the bus at 3:30, whatever it is, they get off the bus. And I will show everyone on this council the actual layout. You'll be able to see the ingress and egress on Highway 23. There's ingress and egress on Time Acre. And let's talk about it. And if we can work something out, good. If we can't work anything out, good. But we need to address it. And that's all I'm saying. And Benny, I understand where you're coming from, and you're absolutely right. And we'll have to just cross that bridge when we come to it.
But I was just concerned about if the man was told that, fill out your application and the administration issues you the permit, how long did they hold the application and why didn't they issue the permit as originally stated?
Well, one thing that we're waiting on is an approval from DOTD. And I asked for that. I said, Mitra, I would like to know from the state, and I know I'm getting off the subject, this is not on that permit, but it is relative to it. I'd like to know, because there's no turn lanes. If you come out of that spot to go south, you have to turn north. If you're coming from north and you want to go in, you have to pass it up and make a U-turn right in front of the school. So I wanted DOTD to let us know. We have not received anything from DOTD, and I will pursue that if necessary.
Finished. Mr. Alborough?
Yes, I would just like to say, based on the issues we're having, as I addressed at the last council meeting with the Taco Bell business, I believe we should, any business along Highway 23, especially in the Belchase area, should come before the council before allowing to move forward.
Well,
Miss-
just to respond to that, though, we sat here and voted on a dollar store in Jesuit Bend just because it was on the highway, wasn't even zoned for the proper zoning. So, I mean, we really send mixed messages around here. And I voted against the dollar store because of the fact that I wanted the neighbors to hear about what was going next door to them. And we were told by the permit office, well, anything on Highway 23, because it faces a state highway, can be commercial. And you can put whatever you want on there. And now we're talking about doing it, and I agree, if you want to start being consistent with what we tell people, then let's be consistent. But, I've seen these changes vary from time to time, where we treat one individual this way, and then one individual this way, and then now we're treating one individual this way because we're changing the rules on them. So I'm not sure where we're at with this, and, I don't know why the administration didn't issue the permit outright other than a request to not issue it. If that's the way we operate, I'll remember that when something else comes up that I don't like, I guess. But it ain't fair to everybody. We're not being fair. But anyway, I'll yield and, I don't disagree with the concept of having, some safety around school zones. I just disagree with the process of how we're implementing this, knowing that these individuals over a year ago were going to build a donut shop there, and now we're telling them we raised the bar on you, and we're going to raise it even higher.
Ms. Newberry?
Well, it's obviously, we're going to cross these paths, whether we're on the east bank, the west bank, the north, or the south. And obviously, these challenges have been coming up. And we're going to continue to see these challenges as we develop. But to me, the bottom line is its area, its location, its safety for the children, and what do we want? And I understand Mr. Roussel sending mixed signals to businesses. It's something you don't want to do. It's bad business. But in the meantime, you have to think about the safety of the children. And it gave me a thought, and Corey brought it up. How are we going to address this if it's a similar situation like Taco Bell? So I'd like to know that answer, how DOTD is going to handle the outlet, the layout of the business.
They're gonna put a no left turn sign and people gonna turn left.
Right.
Like they do at Taco Bell.
I yield.
Or like they do on the other side of the
Mr.
bridge. where they block
Bartholomew?
The whole neighborhood off, and they're not even gonna put a red light on Burmaster. So you're relying on them for relief. Good luck.
The question I have is that, has the permit been submitted to the parish?
Yes.
Yeah, it's my understanding that
Okay, wait.
there's a
I just want-
permit
go ahead.
application in, but that the permit has not been issued or what we would say released yet. It's my understanding that the applicant was asking for a variance, and so I think there was some delays in that, or, I wasn't privy to all of those communications. But yes, an application has been submitted, but the final permits have yet to be issued.
Stating that since those guidelines was not in place when he submitted the permit, what impact would that have on the process?
The only case that I'm really aware of is the Moretco case. If you all remember, that was, I believe, the Walmart case, where there were permits under review or quote-unquote applications taken out. And the council had adopted some additional rules and regulations related to the area where the development was going to go. And the plaintiff sued, and the court said that until you have a finally adopted permit, that the council could put additional burdens or regulations on you until everything is complete. So looking at that case, I don't necessarily think that there's anything proper about having this passed and being applied to them. I understand the whole fairness issue. I was not privy to all of the communications between the permit office and the applicant. We did have another case, and it's not quite on point, where some parish officials had told a developer that his property was grandfathered in. He went expended money, and he sued us, saying that he detrimentally relied on the parish's advice, and a judge basically said, issue him the permit or refund him the money. That is, I don't know that any development has taken place on this property. Like I said, all I know is the applicant, that there was an application.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other questions? Audience? Machine's open.
Verbal, yes.
Passes 9-0. Can we go back to 2, please?
Agenda item 2A, executive session pursuant to LRS 42:17, A10, to receive attorney-client privileged information related to Clean Tests LLC versus Plaquemines Parish Government, case number 67-345, 25th Judicial District Court, Division A. Attorney Jacques Touzette.
I'll offer ask for a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bartholomew. Any questions? Machine's open.
Verbal, yes.
Let the record show pass with 7-0 with 1 abstention. Let the record show going into executive session at 1:49. Let the record show we back from executive session at 2:06 with no binding action. Back to the president's update, please.
Agenda item 4, status report by the parish president.
Mr. President.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just got a few things today. We are actively watching COVID numbers increase a little bit. We've been in contact with the state as they watch those numbers too. And locally, we have seen an increase in cases, so we're again monitoring them as we go through this again. As you know, in 5 days starts hurricane season. We're getting prepared. We had a last meeting with our state delegation last Friday at our pavilion. Everyone from the state came. We had about, I think, 90 people there, going over some of our last minute preparations as we get ready. Baseball season will open on Tuesday to all of our local young men and women who are out playing ball. So we look forward for a successful season with those guys. I want to thank Councilman Black. He hosted a town hall meeting at his house about the bridge. If he wants to speak on it, that's fine. But again, thank you for that. We have been receiving numerous complaints about Highway 23, about the overlay. And we have been in constant contact with DOTD and the contractor too. And we actually urged some of our people to call the state representative to see if they could get some relief or some justification of how they doing the project. But we continue to monitor that. Again, it's a state project, and they are working at night, which minimizes some of the traffic. But we've had a bunch of complaints coming to our office about that, and we are actively working on that. So with that, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have. If any questions?
Any questions? Mr. LaFrance?
Yes, on that overlay project, on some of that salvage that they're doing, what percentage of that we getting?
What's the status?
No, what percentage of the stuff that they grinding up off the road? We're entitled to some of that.
Yes, we are now, yes, we get the aggregate. What percentage of it, of what they're grinding up?
Yeah,
We get all of it.
okay. Where we stockpiling it?
We're stockpiling it on Walker Road right now and on the Bell Chase Complex.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Newberry?
I have several things. Y'all have any plans, what y'all gonna do with the crushed asphalt?
What our plans with it? Right now, it's gonna be stockpiled on Walker Road, and on the government complex. We had to have to iron those two places out so DOT would drop those loads there. Our goal probably on the complex is to, put the parking lot for the quad and the pavilion, put stuff around the pavilion that allows us to make a nice parking lot, and also the parade grounds, and anything else that we see on the government complex site.
So, do y'all have any plans on taking some of that and using it for, public roads that have, like Walker Road, for example?
We are looking at that as I spoke with Mr. Russo too, and we are going to try to put some of that aggregate on Walker Road, to move that, to expedite that and help those people. We have a logistical problem of trying to keep that road graded.
Yeah.
So we trying to, use as much material as we can on Walker Road.
And you said baseball season starts May 31st.
That's Tuesday, yeah.
Usually it starts around, I want to say March, April. Why so late?
We would like to probably see that. It's a catch-22, Ms. Newberry. A lot of people want to run through baseball season and get to All-Stars, where I would like to see a kid who's playing recreation baseball get the most opportune time to play without
During the summer.
half the summer being off. Some parks do go through baseball season, and right now they're in All-Stars. Ours starts a little bit later, but I guess on the flip side of that, I like to see that because kids are still being occupied through June and maybe even July.
So you're saying, will the children have the opportunity to be in All-Stars, even though with the start of baseball season starting late, will they still have that opportunity to be part of the All-Star program that I think is we still in Babe Ruth? I'm not sure.
Well, they have other opportunities they can go and be on.
Well, travel teams, I understand that, right?
Wait, I
Is that
can't.
what you're saying? They have the opportunity to be on travel teams? Is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes, they do.
So I'm just asking, because it used to be back in the day when my children were little, they had the opportunity to be like on an All-Star. Is it Babe Ruth? Do we still follow the Babe Ruth rules? Do you know?
I'm not sure what guidelines we've been Dizzy Dean. We've been.
Oh, Dizzy Dean, okay, no, you're
Yes, I'm
correct.
not
That's
sure
right,
which
Dizzy
one we
Dean, I'm
follow.
sorry. So do we still follow the guidelines of
Yes.
Dizzy Dean, I guess is my question, okay?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Blink?
Sure. I've just got some minor road repairs in the district that I represent. We need a couple of high spots milled. I understand the parish has a machine. The residents they're starting to break boat trailer axles and such. And there's a few potholes that just, smaller stuff that just needs some attention too, but they'll rattle your feelings if you hit them pretty hard.
Yes, that's one of our goals too. And if there's a bunch of it's left over, we want to try to mitigate as much as we can. I guess get as much bang as for our buck as we can. But we talked also, if there's much left over, we know we have issues in the Beerus Boat Harbor. So that will be our next priority, to try to move some of that millage down there.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, you haven't mentioned anything about it. I don't know if you heard anything. Is there any way possible coming up with some elevation funds that can assist some of the people on the lower East Bank and the lower West Bank that doesn't have the elevated homes and doesn't have the levee protection?
We have received about $2.8 million of mitigation fees just right now. We anticipate more to come down. Being in touch with Pat Forbes, we do believe that it's coming down. We don't know how much yet, but we do believe there's an anticipation of more coming down.
And we'll be notified, the council members, to when the application is going to be start being accepted?
Yes, sir. As soon as we get we really don't want to open the application process now because we don't know how much we're getting.
I understand that.
But as soon as we do know, we'll bring it to you guys, because we brought that resolution to you guys to support the elevation, so.
And I hope that we consider the needs when we do disseminate the information, the requirements, that it applies to those who really in the desperate areas. That way it would apply, rather than to those who have the 100-year protection levy, to those who don't have any protection other than trying to get their home elevated. They should have first preference on that, because that's what it's all about, mitigation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And just, Mr. Chairman, just for a side note, tomorrow is our PIO, Sissy Strickland, her last day. So we are actively looking for another PIO, and we wish her well. But we will try to push out as much information as we can. And again, we'll do the best we can, as we've always done, wear many hats. So.
Thank you. Any other questions? Next item, please.
Agenda item 4A, update by charter directors. 1, old business. 2, new business.
I have one question for the directors. A couple months ago, I brought to y'all attention the fire extinguishers and the water sprinkler systems. Have they been done yet?
Yes, all the fire extinguishers have been inspected. We've purchased new fire extinguishers where we needed to. So the fire extinguishers in all the buildings have been done within the last 2 weeks. We got quotes to do the sprinkler system inspections. We issued a PO at the end of last week to a company to do the fire sprinkler system inspections, and those should be taking place after the holiday, after the Memorial Day holiday.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Which one? 11J? Can we go to 11J?
We're in a queue.
In queue.
We got in the queue.
Ms. Newberry?
Yeah. Mr. Russo, so as Mr. President Lapine had stated that hurricane season starts in about 5 days, y'all have any idea when y'all gonna maybe help relieve some of, get some of these ditches cut and swept, and to relieve some of that in the Jesuit Bend area, or maybe further south also? Do you have any game plan on any of that happening?
Well, we are actively cutting ditches right now. We're working that way. It takes time. It hasn't been raining that much. We had a couple problems with a couple of A-booms. We're getting them fixed. We got it back yesterday, matter of fact. So they should be getting on them and cutting as many as possible during the dry spell.
And the Oakville pump station is not operable except on a generator, is that correct?
Right.
So do you have a,
They have a PLC problem there.
Yeah.
Tony's been working with the fellas with it to try to get it going and they are actively working on it right now. But we can run it, and the sector gate is open, so the water does flow to the Jesuit Bend Canal.
So if we have some heavy rain like we've had recently last night or maybe the night before, we are able to drain through that pumping station?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because you had 0 on the paperwork, and I was a little concerned about
Well,
that.
it's the sector gate that's open, and it'll flow straight through into the Jesuit Bend Canal.
Okay, and so is the generator helping with that, or the generator that we have attached to that pump station?
Yes, we got to go crank up the generator manually, and we can turn the pumps on that way. They keep an eye on it. You know, they pass by back and forth. If it does get too high, we'll crank it up.
Do you have any idea when that station's going to be repaired at a full capacity?
I don't right now. We're waiting on information on the PLC. It's the computer system that
Oh, you
does
did
the
say that.
auto
Yes, sir.
mode and all of that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. LaFrance?
Yes, Mr. Russo. Last year, we had the ditches spread in Port Sulphur, those big ditches. I hear that you got some equipment out of the shop, but I know it's hard for them guys to keep up with cutting ditches. The big ditches on the side of Highway 23, 'cause last year they had alligators in it and everything. But again, if we could get those ditches sprayed, that'll help them. That'll help 2 months. That'll give you 2 months. Because most of the grass that you see that's high is Johnson grass. And you could cut Johnson grass today, and by tomorrow it'll jump 2 inches. So is it possible for us to get that Port Sulphur, those ditches along Highway 23? Can we get them sprayed?
Yeah, Brad and I talked about that the other day. It was actually Brad and I that went and sprayed them ourselves. So
Yeah.
we'll work on it as soon as we can.
And especially the ditch behind the post office in Port Sulphur. I get several complaints all the time because I know it's hard for that big boom to get in there.
Yeah.
And also receiving phone call about the highway, the road right on side of our fire station and Lake Hermitage, that ditch. I mean that road that we are obligated to take care of for about 1,000 feet of it. So is it possible for us to get the grader in there?
We'll work on that. I'll mark
Okay.
that down.
Mr. Bartholomew, did you get the grader yet?
What grader? What they got a grader? They have a grader?
You finished?
You know how long I've been asking for one?
Yeah.
No, I haven't. So Mr. Black had it up.
All right, if you
I don't
could take care
have
of that
nothing.
road and take care of that ditch, get them sprayed for us, that would be great. Mr. Eppley, did we get a report on the replacement of the ACs on Port Sulphur Government Building?
I spoke to Optimum Air on Tuesday after you and I talked on the phone. I asked him where he was with the quote. He said he was waiting on prices on parts from 2 different suppliers, and he thought he would have it to me by the end of the day. He still has not gotten a quote to me. He's still waiting on suppliers to give him prices.
On parts, when you say it's not a complete unit, or they have to build a unit, or?
I don't know exactly how he's trying to price it, sir. What I was told was that they needed a new unit, and I guess he's trying to get prices from 2 different suppliers.
Okay, good. Also, I noticed the quote to replace Grand Bayou Community Center from FEMA, that it was, they had priced $80,000.
I haven't seen a quote from FEMA for the Grand Bayou Community Center.
Yeah. And what I'm concerned about, we just purchased accepted bids for 1 single trailer for the port, a 14 by 60, and it was $62,000. And that's just for a single, and I know they have a double back there. So I was just wondering, why did FEMA come up with that number of 80,000?
I haven't seen that number. I don't know if that's a number that FEMA put on there for damages. We do have insurance involved in that also, and insurance has come back, and they do agree that we should get some insurance money on that building also. We're still working out the details with the insurance company on how much insurance money that should be. And as soon as I get that information, I'll bring it to you guys.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Rochelle, I'm concerned about the pumps on the East Bank. Could you please update the people that lives on the East Bank that's watch our meetings, tell them exactly where we are and the status of our pump stations? Since we're getting headed into hurricane season, they are very much concerned about the efficiency of those pump stations. And I know we have problems, so we'd like for you to tell them what's going on with that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I sent out the email this morning on all the pump stations, but East Point LaHash, we got one motor that we moved over, took out the old Walker-Shaw engine, and it's maybe up tomorrow on that one. And we're in the process of getting bids and quotes for a new motor to rebuild a pump that had gotten the oxygen bottle jammed in it and redo that pump. So we are getting quotes on them, and hopefully it'll come back pretty good. So we're working
That's the
on
one in-
that. Bellevue,
Okay, that's the one in Point LaHash, was it one Bellevue? Okay.
Bellevue, we got one pump and one motor running there. The other motor runs, it's the chain gear. That chain gear is over 50 years old. They done used up 2 sets of chains on that pump, and they just don't make them no more. So we getting with the, Rostan with the FEMA representative to be able to swap over from chain gear to a gearbox and see, what it would take for that, try to get some quotes on that one.
That's been a couple of years, right?
What's that?
That's been a couple of years we're dealing with that chain.
That chain job just broke.
Yeah, but we had problems with it before.
They had problems with it.
Okay.
yes, but it just broke during the storm.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So,
Go ahead.
Bel Air, we had a clutch problem on one of them. We just got it fixed last week, so it's up and running. Scarsdale, we got a couple of things we doing with the punch list with the contractor that the FEMA project to raise all the motors on that one. We got a couple of punch items that the parish has to fix. One is an intake manifold crack. We got the quote and we got the PO on that one. They should start that next week sometime.
So how many we have running now?
Sir?
How many is actually functioning?
Up in 3.
3. We have 4, huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
We changing that intake manifold on the number 2 engine now.
okay.
Yes, sir.
And Breakaway Park,
Breakaway Park's up and running.
up and running, everything is good.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you heard anything about the possibility of a gate, a floodgate, in Breakaway Park area, where that levee up that way? Other than the state saying they're gonna elevate the road. Appreciate Mr. Roussel effort at the planning, the commission, meeting along with Mr. Lapine to accent that we needed that, and they're in the process of approving that project. But we still have that issue where that rail pass, that need to really be blocked off some kind of way.
Yes, sir. We've been putting sandbags in the little
Yeah.
stop log gate we got there for a long time.
Yeah, I know. That's the problem. We've been doing that. Are there any new resolutions that we have that possibly people are looking at, the governmental people that trying to accommodate us?
Well, I think they brought it up at the RPC meeting, and we hitting DOTD and some other groups, and we're working on it.
Yeah.
We have actively met with Stowhaven. We've met with some other officials, and look, we trying to beat the drum everywhere.
I know you're beating it, but we ain't getting no action.
Well, I mean,
I'm acting it.
nobody's wrote
that's
a
what
check
I'm saying.
yet, so.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a gun problem. Also, I would ask that we look into the state funding for parish project, that you look at Highway 15, to finishing in that project with the highway down there, because it's getting worse, getting bad. And would like to have the grader. We've been trying to get that grader over here to grade those roads down there. Okay, that's the only concern I have with that. Mr. Epley, you've been dealing with this community center at Dave Ant. We still don't have the ice machine. It's not working. The air conditioning is not working completely independently. And we also, I don't know if you had the opportunity yet to FEMA would give y'all any feedback on the roof up at the center, because some of that internal stuff had to be repaired. I know you're waiting on FEMA. I don't know if anything happened with that. Just to advise the people where we are with that.
So for repairs to the Day Van Center, the second air conditioner that money was appropriated for should arrive within the next 2 weeks. As soon as it arrives, we'll have that air conditioner replaced, and you'll have 2 brand-new 50-ton units on that building, and also the kitchen unit, the small unit, will be repaired when they go up there to put that other air conditioner in. As far as the roof, we are in the process of getting quotes to see about getting the roof repaired. It's just been difficult to get contractors to come and give us quotes to get these things done. And we have several buildings in the parish that need attention, this being one of them. There's a lot of small repairs, but it adds up to a lot of money that we're gonna have to put out. And as soon as we get a handle on the quotes and an idea how much money it's gonna cost to get all of these buildings back repaired the way they need to be, we'll come to you and let you know what it's gonna take.
Right. And I know none of those no building in the parish is isolated. All of them in unison for damage with either, and the storm is concerned. I understand that quite well, and I appreciate the effort. The other issue is that in the back end of the center, where the senior citizens are, the last torrential rain, serious rain we had, that would flood it. A lot of water got into that area, even though they don't be in there. They're not in that area, but I don't know if they told your department that they had a leak in there. So that's just for you to look at when you start doing everything else.
I wasn't aware of that, sir.
Okay, yeah. Well,
I'll take a look at it.
yeah, the other thing I want to thank you for the efficiency of getting the pool clean. People stayed there till about 7 o'clock last night, and we start filling in the water. It's going to take a day or so, a couple of days. So I really appreciate that and getting it done.
Yes, sir.
And we had about 20 turtles. So I don't know if you wanted them or not. I told them to call you, see if you wanted. Kurt might want a few to put in back his house or something. I don't know.
That's all right. They can.
So I'm just kidding, but he did have a whole 25 of them. I laughed at that. I said, man.
Right.
But it went down and completely cleaned it all the way to the end and drained it real good. And
We were there earlier today.
Oh, y'all went there earlier?
Yes, sir.
But when they had water in it by the time you got there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm talking about when she was dry. You could see the seeing something. But anyway, it was done effectively, and I appreciate that, and the kids appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
And the lifeguards, they're gonna be ready, because I told you about that, we're working on that, gonna get done, and shouldn't be no problem with that. And the only other thing I ask is that I get a copy of that CEA that you had before for recreation, because we possibly have a 501c group coming in, want to do that. And I think that'll take care of that, because the problem we have with the workman comp, they will not give it to us under the volunteer fire department, because it deals with fire hazard and everything else, and they have to be covered under the CEA once we do it with the fire department. And they would not just cover those 2 months of recreation. So that's the problem with the fire department. That's why we couldn't get the CEA.
Okay. We'll get it to you.
Not the CEA, I'm sorry, the workman comp.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Russo.
Is John around? Mr. Helmer? The Point Hatch Marine, I know we talked about that. People had asked me if and when we'll be able to get that island clean up down there where they can go have the rodeos and stuff of that nature at the marine, and wonder if that's possible this year. I said, well, I'll ask him when I see it. And I forgot to ask you when you came through the door, because you usually respond pretty good to those issues.
Right. We do have the assessments almost finished, and we will present the assessment to you for the funding to take care of it.
Good. And I think that worked. The other issue was we talked about that, the canals are being closed in because of Mardi Gras Pass, and a lot of fishermen and crab fishermen mainly, and shrimpers, having problems with moving down in and out the area through the lower canals because they're filling in. And I don't know what can be done with that other than the Corps possibly doing something to alleviate some of that problem, if possible. I don't know.
We are meeting with the Corps soon to talk about the new pass and quarantine day, because it presents some of the same things as the Mardi Gras pass. But
Right.
we do have that experimental program that we're looking at with the Corps now that I sent you guys the information on. We will be meeting on that regularly as we move forward with that, and they will be able to adjust those channels as part of that program.
Yeah.
that we move
And I
forward.
want to let you know, I too really appreciate your effort of getting those culverts addressed. I see the machines are there.
Yep, they are.
Unfortunately, I fell into one of them, made a U-turn off I-39. I went into a trench back there.
Uh-oh.
It's about 6 feet deep. I tried to call Kurt to come take a picture and see where I'm at, because in case I get lost next time, he'll be able to find out where I'm at. But anyway, the engineering went over and blocked it off and,
Okay.
and covered up, so that's an area that where we need to fill in with some dirt.
Good deal.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Roussel.
Yes, to summarize
Oh, ain't no
this
problem.
pump station
I'm leaving
discussion,
soon. You want me to
the
leave?
report that you issued, am I on?
I don't have a
Mic
problem
on?
to it, shit. Especially once I done told y'all what was going on.
My mic's on? To summarize this pump station discussion, the report you gave, you have 14 out of 23 pump stations are less than 100%, which means that only 9 are at 100%. We're facing hurricane season. Do you anticipate that number rising to get more of them up to 100% before hurricane season?
I hope not, sir. I mean, we run these pumps when it rains heavily and things happen. Some of the pump stations are old. We're trying to work on getting up as many pumps as possible. Magnolia should come online too, right before
I know.
hurricane season.
I'm just trying to get a feel here. We're facing hurricane season, and we got 14 out of 23 that are less than 100%.
Yes, sir.
The issues are, is it money? Do you need money to fix some of these pumps? And if you do, you need to bring that to us so we can address these issues. Because, going into hurricane season with only 14 out of 23 at 100% is not good.
Right, right.
So I'm going to drop the issue, but ask you to come back and tell us what we need to do to get these pump stations up and running before we have another hurricane. And that way we can try to address it, whether it's emergency funds or whatever it is. The next item I have on the agenda is the Belle Chase Water Plant and Intake. Can you get an update on that, Mr. Epley?
Yes, sir. The design is complete, the bid package is complete. It is being reviewed by EDA currently. Those are the people that the grant money is coming from. They got the paperwork on the 16th of this month. They have 30 days to review. Hopefully, it doesn't take them 30 days to get it done. But as soon as they finish reviewing, it'll go out for bid.
So we should see it within the next 2 to 3 weeks in the advertisements?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the next item, the status of the Ladder and Bloom contract. I think we're going to meet tomorrow and talk about one of the buildings, but the contract between Ladder and Bloom and the marketing, I've seen no progress with them. I think that we ought to cancel the contract and move on to somebody else.
Last time I spoke with Ladder and Bloom, they were reaching out. He was supposed to reach out to the council chairman to set up a meeting with the real estate committee, and I'm guessing that hasn't happened.
No.
It hasn't happened. It's been rhetoric for over a year now. We haven't marketed any property, and tomorrow, hopefully, we'll come to an agreement with the legal department and administration to at least lease one of the floors in one of the buildings.
I'll facilitate a meeting and we'll make something happen. I was under the impression that he was reaching out to the council chairman and working with a council real estate committee, because as you know, we can't market property that's not surplus or not deemed surplus by the council.
I understand that, and it would take one resolution if we had somebody that was interested in it to make it surplus, if we all agreed. So,
I'll expedite
those
the-
excuses are wearing thin from that company. My point is, we need to move to a company that's more aggressive, that will take this by the hand and make something happen, because this has been going on for well over a year. My next item is discussion of renovations of the Building 800. I know that in the CEA with Venture Global, they're agreeing to put up X amount of dollars for communications. What is the game plan from the administration on what we're going to do with that money and where we're going to place it?
Our goal is to use it for the rehabilitation of Building 800. And a lot of that would be used for transferring the equipment over from the previous building, the blue building, to the new building.
So Building 800 is retrofitted and ready to accept the new equipment?
We're working on it. It's still going, it went out for bid the first time, and it was, the bids came back extremely high. So we've rebid it to see if it can, construction costs have skyrocketed. So we trying to see if we can fit it in our budget.
So the rebid, have you gotten the results of the rebid yet?
Not yet.
So is it on the market now?
Is it on the market?
Yes, it's being advertised now.
Yes, it's that being advertised now.
So when will the bids be due?
I believe at the end of the month, which is the next couple of days.
And then we'll know if we have enough money to
We'll
renovate.
know where we're headed.
All right, that's all I have for today, except if we want to go down to the next item on I,
Well, we gotta, this is still the,
President's report. This would be under the President's report. I could squeeze it in since everything else has been squeezed in.
oh, go ahead.
The discussion I have on item I is discussion about the P3 Belchase Tunnel Replacement Project and potential litigation. I've received the information from my constituents on Dr. Bowen Street where they have taken half of the street and they have purchased that. The shopping center that is there, they are approaching them to take half of their parking lot or more. And so the litigation that I believe someone has enjoined into the expropriation suit, one of the property interests from the north side of the tunnel, are we looking at what our interests are? Because if they are going to take our street and make our shopping center useless, basically, by taking also their parking lot, they're really affecting our tax base and our business interest. And I don't know if anybody has looked at that yet, but I have received that information from the tenants that occupy that shopping center that are now trying to flee because of them taking and expropriating half of Dr. Bowen.
Spoke with LV this morning. He's requested all of the appraisals and reviews that were done for the brick project from DOTD so that he could look at comprehensively everything they've done. As soon as he finally reviews that, I will give you an update on that, or I'll ask him to call you.
Well, we need to have some serious discussion with somebody and preserve our rights, whether it's intervening in expropriation or something, because
But we'll make whatever claims we can, but the expropriation statutes are pretty clear about what they pay for and what they don't pay for. So, it's either something that's covered, something that's not covered. After our last meeting, I called him and I said, I'm not an expert in expropriation, but he's been doing this a long time. And I said, this was an issue that was brought up by the council and I'd like you to investigate it.
okay, I have spoken with experts, and they're a little leery about the way this is going about. So I look forward to that call.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions?
What is the next one?
Jay? We can go to Jay.
Agenda item 11J,
Yes, ma'am.
discussion by Richard Cotton regarding the air boot noise ordinance. Councilman Roussel.
Yes, this was put on the agenda at the request of Mr. Richard Cotton, who had called me earlier and wanted to discuss the airboat noise ordinance. You want to come up, Mr. Cotton?
Can you state your name and address for the record?
Richard Cotton, 120 Delta Street, Belchase, Louisiana. Also have property at 191 West Bayou Lane, Port Sulphur. First of all, I'd like to thank the council for this opportunity to address this issue. Of course, my name's Richard Cotton. I've been a resident of the parish for 22 years. Currently own a home on Delta Street and also a home at Lake Hermitage Bayou where I spent half the year. I've been spending time there for over 53 years, since I was 10 years old down at Lake Hermitage. I operate a charter business out of Lake Hermitage and have been doing so for over 15 years. My business has an occupational license also. Most, if not all, of the men that run airboat charters here live or have their business in the parish. We're here today to discuss the issues concerning the ordinance number 6-10 that was discussed with the council on 4/14/2022. Since my name was mentioned by Mr. Harden at the meeting in March, I would like to address what was said by Mr. Harden at that meeting. Number one, he said 6 airboats launched at one evening. That has never happened. Getting worse and worse. On average, we run from 30 to 40 trips a year out of Lake Hermitage. That's incorporating maybe 2 or 3 boats at one night. The sheriff, number 3, the sheriff has not come out. I know of 2 times within the past 3 years that they have. One time when I was coming in, he met me at my place and he told another airboat captain, which is here today, that he did not even notice me coming down the bayou. Number 4, they hide at my place, the airboat guys. The reason they park at my place is twofold. So customers have a safe place to board the boats because the marina there is not in good shape. And there was an incident of tires being slashed on their vehicles and trailers at the launch. Number 5, they removed their license plates so he doesn't know who they are. That's just not true. Nobody takes their license plates off their vehicles, so they won't know who they are. Number 6, out-of-state boats. Hard to control that if I'm not there. When I do and I have confronted a few in the last 20 years, I explained to them about what we implemented ourselves around Lake Hermitage to help accommodate the issue. Number 7, wants to draw up new ordinance for the noise problem. We are in agreement to do so. I think we can agree on something that is fair for both sides, like Mr. LaFrance talked about being fair. Number 8, complaining that he is being woken up. I have with me a list right here, and I'll give y'all copies of it if y'all want to make copies, of 26 people that have camps or homes on the bayou, 4 of which live there. My 2 neighbors have never been woken up by my airboat. The other 24 I have spoken with have said the same. Mr. Clay Boudreau, who's here also, he will be addressing this as well. He has a public launch where a few airboats are launched and has never complained of being awakened by the airboats. I have talked to Mr. Harden in the past, told him if he has any issues with the airboat noise to let me know and I would address it. He said thank you, and he would. I have not heard from him at all about any issue from that time we talked. Number 9, airboats hardly make a wake. One of the other men that was here with Mr. Harden was saying something about the wake issue. All of us have agreed for a long time that we will go beyond the trees, past the camps, which are set, which we set out before 9:30, which is about a quarter mile away before we take off. We also shut down at that spot when we come in and idle the rest of the way. We bring in revenue for the parish with our clients spending money in the parish. We pay our taxes like other business and residents.
This is not an every night or even every other night issue. We run on average 30 to 40 trips out of Lake Hermitage. That is an average because some of the trips we have, like I said, are 2 to 3 boats the same nights. My understanding of the ordinance, it is a trespass issue, not a noise ordinance. And I have it here, a copy of it, and y'all read it at that meeting. It should be for any trespass issue. There is nothing in it stating anything about noise, and that it is the complaint from Mr. Harden that the noise from the airboats is waking him up. As I've said earlier, we would like to redo the ordinance also. I've talked to Mr. Roussel in the past, I think last week, and he said he would be in agreement to put a decibel reading from inside of your home that cannot be exceed or a fine can be implemented. I've researched charts and have done my own video with a meter inside of my home and near the boat at idle. I have that today. Here's my decibel meter. If this is a noise issue, the ordinance should apply to any noise exceeding this reading inside of your home that we can agree on. This should be enforced at all times. I could have a night job and sleep during the day, and my neighbor may be cutting his grass, starts it up to wake me up. Could be a loud vehicle, music, parties, whatever it is. That would exceed the decibel level in my home. Running the airboats at higher speeds outside the areas where we set the boundaries does not register on the meter at all in my home. We took it on our own to set some boundaries of not to run your boat wide open or to fish in. We did it on our own just to respect for some of the residents, or all of the residents. The parish is going to run all of these men in their airboats and businesses out of the parish. Then when we need them for rescue or storms, we will not have them available. We need to be fair across the board with this noise issue and include all disturbing noises at a certain decibel reading inside of our home. The parish already has a noise ordinance that applies to outside. I have it available if you want to see that also. We can do the same for noises that come from outside and apply it to the inside the home. I have readings that I took with my airboat running in my home, and I have those written down. And it does not exceed what the noise ordinance already is, that is set up with the parish. I could show you those too. Like I said, the parish has an existing ordinance for the sound levels outside, none for inside a home for noises that may wake people up. We can use the same ordinances for outside, for inside. This will cover any noise from any source at any time that exceeds the decibel numbers set forth on the existing chart. After all the information, facts about this issue, I have to ask myself, what is the real motive behind these complaints? I just want to thank you for letting us share our thoughts about this issue.
Thank you. Mr. Blink? Mr. Roussel?
So you're asking us to amend the airboat ordinance to put a decibel reading in the airboat ordinance? Or
Well,
there is an ordinance that was passed, I believe, a couple of weeks ago about noise that is in general. I don't know if you've seen that ordinance.
No.
So I think that maybe you want to get a copy of that ordinance and see if it's tolerable, because Mr. Konovich passed an ordinance a couple of weeks ago dealing with, he had issues with a ballroom. So he passed an ordinance that sets,
After 8 o'clock, it goes to 50 decibels.
Well, we already have one, you know, I have it right here. It's,
75 before 9.
yeah, well, it's
Oh, hey.
chapter 17, I'm not sure the number, 17-133. And it lists the decibel readings for land use category, time, residential noise sensitive areas, public space, multifamily dwelling, commercial convention,
yes,
industrial.
we have that.
Yeah.
And so are those decibel levels reasonable, in your opinion?
Yes, because it says
Well, that's what's on
also,
the books now, then. That's what's on the books now.
correct.
Okay, so
Correct.
they're reasonable.
Right, yes, definitely.
Okay.
And, you know, especially with what I did with the video and doing my readings themselves within the home, we would never exceed these decibels.
So where do we go from here? If we already have the law in the books and we have the decibels, what are we looking for, enforcement or? just- or
No
you-
problem with us enforcing it, raising the penalty, but it would have to apply, I would, you know,
This
to be
applies,
fair.
this applies to all of the categories that you just read. Land use categories, residential, noise-sensitive area, public space.
Correct.
Multifamily, et cetera. And so I'm trying to get to the problem of what we got to do to address it. But I think what you're addressing is that you were targeted by somebody here that put your name out there and said a bunch
Well,
of
yeah, I mean,
things.
they would be targeting the airboats.
Okay,
You know, like the ordinance that was introduced that's for trespassing says airboats. You know, it should be any vessel that trespasses. It could be a bay boat, flat boat.
I think the legal
That needs to be
department can
changed
address
also.
this. There is a state law about trespassing.
Right.
That exists, that switch the burden from the landowner to the person trespassing. They have to prove that they have the right to be there versus the landowners proving that they shouldn't be there.
Okay, well,
anyway.
I would agree to that. I mean, it was just an
Okay,
ordinance that we have, that's 6-10, and it's a trespassing ordinance.
right.
We can't use that as a noise ordinance, but we do have ordinances
We do
on the
have-
books already.
Right.
And that'd be great to implement that and enforce that. We don't have a problem with it at all.
Well, it's on the books. We're in the law-making business. We're not in enforcement.
Right. I
So
understand.
you have someone else that would like to speak?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Blink?
Yeah, sure. Is boat fishing allowed in Texas or Florida? Or any other place besides Louisiana?
I don't know.
Yes.
Where's that at?
Which states we have? I think every bordering state, all states.
Hold on. If we're
In
going
the
to have
United
testimony,
States.
got to come to the
Gotta
mic.
come up to the mic. if
So,
you're
you want to ask, who you want to ask this question to, Mr. Blink? Specific question to who?
I mean, I've got a raft of questions here. I mean, it's not.
Okay, you want to address to Mr.
From what I
Cotton?
understand, it's.
He was
not
up there
allowed in Florida.
speaking, so.
It's not allowed in Texas. And, you know, they've done that because just the nature of bow fishing is somewhat indiscriminate. The next morning I often see a lot of dead garfish,
Well,
redfish that are undersized.
excuse me, Mr. Blake, that's another issue for another time. Bow fishing, I can bring you facts about that also. But this is a noise issue.
All right,
We
so
discussed.
switching back to
I'm not
noise
dis-
then.
Yeah, let's
All right.
do that.
All right, well, switching back to the noise, I live on the back levee canal, and I personally had to take my own skiff out in the middle of the night because I had a meeting or something the next morning because somebody's right over the levee from my house, and it sounds like a drag strip. And what's going on is the land that's over the levee from my house, while it's not mine, it is private property. And the nature of airboats going over that marsh does cause damage to that.
That's
slide
not
around.
true either.
So,
My background is in wetland ecology. I mean.
I run the air moats, and I know a lot of them do, and I can prove that is not true.
okay, one at
Look,
a
if you
time.
want
let him-
to be perceived as argumentative throughout this whole thing, that's fine. I could say my piece, and you could sit up there and argue, or,
Let him,
it's.
one at a time is what we're going to do. Let him say
Anyway.
what he's got to say, then you can address it.
But-
And then we got to move on to Mr. Boudreaux.
But it's clear there's
Well, let's
issues.
keep it to the noise issue, please. That's what we were discussing.
Yeah, we've talked about
I'm not-
those ordinances.
Right, so it's clear that there's issues throughout the parish around this. I personally have had to go in the middle of the night more than once to go tell somebody to get away from my house because it's aggravating me, it's keeping me up at night. And so I know other residents are having problems about it. My predecessor, Jeff Edgecombe, authored this legislation because a lot of people were having a lot of problems with it. And when I went out there in the middle of the night, I said, look, man, I've got a meeting tomorrow, and I don't know who it was. It wasn't you. I don't know if it was one of these other guys. But the deckhand definitely caught an attitude with me, not much unlike what was going on just a little while ago. And the thing is, I'm like, look, there's all this marsh further out. Y'all want you to go 5 miles out that way. And there was a lot of back and forth. And it's not a good scenario that I want to find myself in when somebody's armed with a boat and I'm out there in the boat telling them to get away from my backyard because I can't sleep at night. So, I know other people are having these issues around the parish. It's undeniable. And the thing is, while it might fall within a certain decibel level, what it does do is it shatters any kind of peace and tranquility that people have for silence in the middle of the night at their home. So I'll yield on that. I think that there's a lot of indiscriminate shooting going on. There's a lot of partying going on. When I found all those trash cans of Bud Light cans on the levee, and I found mail within it, it was linked to a boat fishing operation. So, y'all got to clean up the act from within. If y'all want to be perceived as, being good partners here, good businesses here, the reputation that's already out there isn't so much the best lately.
Thank you. Ms. Newberry?
Can I?
Do you want to comment on that?
Yes, thank you. We've implemented at Lake Hermitage certain rules that we stand by to help the noise situation. And it's not, like I said, there are very few and far complaints in this, in my area, Lake Hermitage. And I have, like I said, I have a list that you can have of 27 people, 4 which live down there, never have an issue with the noise waking them up when we come in.
Thank you, Ms. Newberry.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming here today and making your statement. This isn't nothing new that's come to the board. I've had people address me on a personal basis along with on the board also. We have policies in place for a reason. From what I understand, this is affecting the local businessmen and residents that do this for a living. Is this what you do for a living, Mr. Cotton?
It's part of my living, yes.
Part of your living, okay. Versus people coming from out of the parish. I don't know how that's being controlled, whether it's can be
Very
controlled.
few that come out of the parish
Okay.
to my area, Lake Hermitage.
So I kind of like the idea of when you said maybe we ought to put a policy in place to put decimals required for these airboats.
Well, I would think, we have one and it's for noise.
We do,
But why single out just the airboat?
I don't know the answer to that. There's always ways to improve a policy, but there's always ways to enforce them, and that's what we don't do, unfortunately. We just set policies in place. But if y'all can
We
come
don't
up,
have a problem with enforcing and raising the fine.
if y'all can come up with different ideas on how to work with you guys on making the policies better and improve it, we're happy to address that.
And that's something with Mr. Roussel that I can talk to some more about, and Mr. Gouy.
I'm rewriting the airboat ordinance now. I'm going back to what it used to be. You used to have to put numbers on your little fan, the steering. You had to register it with the parish. And
Yeah, we registered with the state, all of our boats are, but yeah.
it used to be with the parish, but they stopped it. And
We can do that also, yeah.
I'm,
Sure.
Ms. Newberry? Any other questions?
Yeah,
Mr.
I think the
LaFrance?
ordinance that we do have right now, which we haven't been enforcing, is that you have to be 2 miles from a residential area.
That's not a noise ordinance, Mr. LaFrance.
That
It's a
is-
trespass
Hold
ordinance.
on. That is the ordinance for the bull fishing. That you have to be 2 miles from any residential area. Am I correct?
No, it's for
Law on the books.
That is the law.
for trespassing. It's for airboats. That's why I said it should not be just for airboats. Anybody can trespass with a vessel, any kind of boat. Why is it pointing out just airboats?
The noise is obnoxious.
No, it's not.
It's obnoxious.
I have proof that it isn't with the decibel readings for the noise levels for the parish has.
And the reason
And I have
why-
27 people that live by me that said it doesn't bother them at all.
And the
The
reason-
motive behind these other two guys is not for the noise, I guarantee you. I can't prove it, but I can tell you it's for something else.
Mr. LaFrance?
And I know the reason why this had came up previously, because my office had received numerous phone calls from the residents of Happijack. And I met with the airboats and the residents from Happijack.
A year
And I
ago.
asked them to please be respectful when you go through these communities. And I also met with the residents from Grand Bayou. And I asked the boat fishermen to please be respectful. Please be respectful. Because I got tired of getting the phone calls. So, and then I started getting phone calls from Lake Hermitage. So, we're calling you to random from Happijack, now they up here by me, you know? So, again, I know y'all have a lot of money invested in y'all boats. This is how y'all make y'all living. But people are, and then you might have 90%. You might have 99% of follow the rules and regulations. But there's always that one. And many of y'all sitting here, y'all know who that one is.
Not me, I ain't got no
So-
boat.
I don't know, maybe there's something for the legal department to look over that ordinance again. But that ordinance wasn't passed by this council. That ordinance was passed previously. That's it.
Thank you. Any other questions?
And let me say this. Now I'm having residents from Habitat calling me. Say, Mr. LaFrance, can y'all pass an ordinance or something to do something with the fish heads that's floating up and down Habitat Canal? They go out, they catch the fish, and now they having trouble with the dead carcass of the fish. And goldfish also.
So that's the airboat guys are doing it, not the rod and reel
listen,
guys?
I didn't say that.
I know. I'm
didn't
just
say-
explaining.
I'm just telling you the phone call that I received from a resident from Happijack.
Right.
I'm just telling you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Okay, my name is Clay Boudreau. I live in Lake Hermitage. I own and operate a small marina. I'm here to speak towards the noise ordinance that Richard was just talking about. And I can tell you firsthand, my bedroom is 50 feet from where they pick up. And what wakes me up at midnight when they come in is when they start their vehicle to pick up their airboat. I know who it is. I've got cameras everywhere. I monitor everything. How can somebody 5 football fields away from my boat launch call and complain that he's getting woken up all during the night from these airboats coming in at midnight? If I can hear a vehicle start up in my parking lot and I don't hear the boat come in when they pick up, how can somebody 5 football fields away from where I live, where the launch is, be woken up by these boats coming in? They all have whisper tip blades on their fans. They have high-tech exhaust systems to quieten everything down. These few guys that's right here are probably some of the most politest and respectfulest people that I know, and I make a living on the water. So, sir, you're alluding to somebody other than these folks. There's no doubt in my mind that everything you said is true, and you've experienced that. But I can assure you that these people, they do put the respect of Lake Hermitage at the forefront when they come in at nighttime. I don't hear nobody talking. I don't hear the boats come in. And I'm gonna say it again. My bedroom is 50 feet from where they pick their boats up. So I don't know where we're going with this. Everything you said, I'm sure you right about what you said, but this is not this group of guys. So how can you include them in a group of people that doesn't respect people where they do? They do, man. I don't have an airboat. I'll tell you what, all the duck hunters wake me up 90 days a year when duck season opens. But you don't see me in here in front of y'all complaining about that. I live in a fishing village. That's what we do. We fish and we hunt. If I live next door to a hospital, I can't complain when the ambulance comes in because the sirens are going. I mean, that's where we live. So there's going to be some imperfections. There's going to be some things that happens that doesn't set well with everybody. But I'll tell you, if you drill down deep enough, here's what you're going to find. You're going to find the method of harvest is what people are angry about. The method of harvest. They think it's wrong to go fishing with a bow and arrow. And the state of Louisiana says that it's not against the law. So, you know, in your future discussions, when y'all talk about this, that's all I had to say was that I'm right there. I have no vested interest. They pay me $10 to launch their boat. I might make $200 a year. But they hardly, I mean, it's not a big revenue for me. So I don't have a vested interest in coming here and speaking, other than the fact that the noise complaints that's going on is false with these guys in this area.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you. Next.
How y'all doing today? My name's Alan Yetter. I own Southern Style Bow Fishing. I'm right there on Highway 23 in Buras, Louisiana.
Home place, huh? Home place, huh?
Yes, right there, right across from Shirley B. Drive. I'm here today about the airboat noise ordinance. And I remember when Mr. Edgecombe, his administration, you know, the board members, they voted on this deal. And we was told that they wasn't targeting us for noise or anything like that. They just needed to get something in place. Well, years later, of course, it came back up on the scene, and it seemed to me like when you had certain residents found out about there was some kind of noise ordinance in place for airboats, that's when the calls started, you know, coming in. Not to say that there wasn't a problem, but from my understanding, after talking to Mr. LaFrance and, you know, a couple of the council members, that it was more partying issues involved instead of just the regular noise from the airboats. And it was also documented that there was some tickets that was given, you know, for the noise, and you know, certain people had received them. Nobody in this group, to my knowledge, received any of the tickets. But what we're needing is a clarification on the airboat ordinance noise. Is it the trespassing? Because the way it's written on the legal sheets, that it's a trespassing. It goes to something completely different than what we're getting complained on, and also that we're getting tickets from. Because there, like I said, there has been a handful of people who has received tickets, and I know for a fact they received tickets, they shut down past the point, let's just use the 80 ARPANT line, and they have idled all the way back in, which is well over a mile, some a mile and a half, and they still, you know, had gotten a ticket, you know, for the noise. Now, is this going to continue with, if we have certain bad apples, are we all going to get punished for it? Or is this going to just remain for the culprits, the ones who does not follow the laws. That's why we're here, to try to get some of this sorted out and to see if we can make a happy medium on this and everybody's happy. As far as the bow fishing is concerned, we're legal in Louisiana for the methods that we use by bow and arrow. And until something else changes on that, we just want to respond to what we have to, and that is the noise ordinance from the airboats. How can we work together to fix this problem? Because it is fixable. And we don't have to put small businesses out of business, because I've been operating in this parish for 23 years now, and I have the occupational licenses to prove it. And I have never been issued a ticket for noise. But we want to make sure everybody's on the same playing field equally. And if there is somebody who is not following the laws or regulations, that person is the one who gets the tickets, or possibly, the penalties involved, not all of us as a group.
Thank you, Mr. Roussel.
Yeah, thank you both, all of you, for your comments. After listening to all of these discussions, I'm still trying to identify the problem. And we agree that we have a noise ordinance, which is separate from the airboat trespass ordinance, and we have a trespass ordinance. And there's nothing to say that the enforcement can't be for one or the other. So as far as equal treatment, everybody should be being treated equally now, other than the discretion of the individual doing the enforcement. So the law is on the books as it states, and if there are fallacies or inconsistencies in the laws that are on the books, then we need to address that. And that's what I'd like to see, if we can identify it, and I'm not going to take the time today to do it, but if y'all want to meet and we can go through the ordinance and just read it word for word and see where we have some unclear language or whatever we want to call it, and go from there, because I haven't identified a problem yet after listening to all of this discussion, other than some people that came here and are saying things that y'all don't agree with. And as far as the enforcement, I don't know who's writing the tickets and what ordinance or what law they're writing the tickets under, but they should be treating everybody the same, because the noise ordinance is for everybody. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll give you a prime example. I'm launching my boat. The ordinance is supposed to be from 9 to 4. I'm launching my airboat at 7 o'clock that evening, and I'm getting called on. The guy came over, the one who was in the last council meeting in March. He came up to my truck, took his phone, was video cameraing, me launching my boat at Mr. Clay's place, a business. So he was coming over there harassing me about me launching my boat at 7 o'clock. And I asked him, I said, where are you located at? He says, oh, I'm down the canal this way. I said, well, I don't go that way. I said, I go this way. And I said, when I come in, I idle in. I said, I know for a fact you cannot hear me when I come in.
So let me ask you this, then. Let me try to narrow this down, though. So the ordinance prohibits you from launching your boat before 9 o'clock?
No,
So this is just an individual approaching you?
that's correct.
Well, I can't solve people's attitudes and problems. I can only try to get the rules and regulations for equal to everybody, because, it's a difficult thing to live with people.
I guess what I'm saying here, sir, is that, in other words, I can launch my airboat, okay, and I'm idling out, I'm following the rules, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and it does not matter. That same person is going to call on me, and it's going to be a complaint filed in that system.
Let me say this.
Every time.
I understand that. I've been around for quite a while, and I can go to the donut shop and somebody jump me for something that I have no clue about, okay? But I sit there and take it. And I understand your situation, but we got to deal with what the law is and what the rules are. And
School zone.
don't go there. Anyway, if y'all want to meet, and look at the ordinance and we can review it and see if there are some kinks in it or whatever, let's do that. because we're going to wrap this up unless there's some other speakers, because we need to move on. But I can tell you, selective enforcement, that happens. And we can't control that because it's at the discretion of the guy who's got the ticket book. Now, if you're not getting a ticket, then I really wouldn't worry about it. If you're just getting somebody chewing your ear, I'd just say get used to it. So, because if you're not doing anything wrong, you're not getting a ticket, don't worry about it. But let's meet and let's work it out and see where we go from here.
I don't believe anybody paid any fine for that.
Yeah, and if they got a ticket, they might not even have to pay it.
Anybody paid any fines?
I haven't gotten
know
a
of?
ticket.
So they hadn't got a
Yes.
ticket.
Yes.
Somebody paid a fine?
There's been a few of them paid the fines.
Well,
Yes, sir.
You know how much the fines was?
The fines, they range from $50 to $500. I think it was $250. If I'm not mistaken, that's what I heard twice on two of the fines.
Well, we'll meet about it and straighten it out and.
Well, okay. Well, we're still getting harassed in the meeting.
I can't stop people from harassing you. I get it every day.
I mean, we understand that, but I guess what I'm saying is okay, example, if Marine Patrol's called, okay, and they come out there and they say, okay, we got a complaint, okay, but if they didn't hear us, violating or cutting up, I can understand if we're being loud or if it's in the house and all that, but unless it's to that point, then how can we solve this problem? That's where we at with this.
Mr. Black?
So we're getting way off the topic here, and you asked a question at the end there. This is the legislative branch. That is a judicial branch issue. Go to a judge, ask for a temporary restraining order if someone is harassing you or making false complaints. That's all we can advise you to do. We can't solve that problem. We can sit here and talk for another 2 hours about it. This is not a legislative branch issue. The chairman and Mr. Roussel agreed to meet with you guys and address issues in the ordinance. But my advice would be to document every time you're harassed and then go to a judge to get a TRO.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Go back to the agenda, please. Agenda item 8, introduction of ordinances and resolutions. The first few are for Councilmember Konovich. An ordinance to amend the 2022 manpower structure and otherwise provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan drainage Empire Boat Harbor project and otherwise provide with respect thereto. An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of a portion of section 1 and 2, T21S, R31E, Venice, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, into lots ST-1 and ST-2, sections 1 and 2, T21S, R31E, Venice, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as shown on the plan and plat of surveys by R.W. Krebs dated November 19, 2021, the owner having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines without cost to the Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines and otherwise provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2022 general fund operating expenditure budget, legal services department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. The next is for Councilmember Bartholomew. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan, repairs Point Lahash Pump Station project, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. The next is for Councilmember Black, a resolution authorizing partial settlement of Plaquemines Parish Government versus MAP Construction LLC, ABC Insurance Companies, Travels Casualty and Surety Company, Seisler Thompson, Brown Architects Project Design Group LLC, and XYZ Insurance Company, matter number 2561-741B, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And the last is for Councilmember LaFrance, an ordinance to amend the 2021, our Chapter 2021, our 21 of Parish Code of Ordinance to increase the annual fees for trailer and recreational vehicle parks, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. And that is it.
Did y'all have one for me that I missed?
There's one for Councilmember Roussel, a resolution establishing the policy for Plaquemines Parish government in regard to mandatory terms to be included in all parish contracts for professional and other services and all contracts that extend beyond a single fiscal year, establishing the policy for the Plaquemines Parish government in regard to submitting all signed contracts to the council secretary within 2 weeks of the document being executed, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And that is it.
Thank you.
Agenda item 9A4, an ordinance declaring a temporary housing need exists pursuant to subsection 6 of section 12 of the comprehensive zoning ordinance of Plaquemines Parish, enacting rules, regulations, and fees thereof, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
So offered?
Ms. LaFrance offers there a second.
This has changes.
Yes. I'll offer with the changes.
I'll second. I'll second. Mr. LaFrance?
Yes. Mr. Burris, you would like to go over the changes that we have on this? Just give him a brief.
This was an ordinance that needs to be adopted to allow for the rules, regulations, and fee establishment for temporary RV parks and sites to be made available south of St. Jude. Essentially, on the sites, we'll be allowing any parcel can get 2 or more sites. So they would just go to the permit office, follow the normal, regular rules and procedures for obtaining a permit. We spoke to Mr. LaFrance. It'll be the type of quick connect where the old rules and regulations basically said the tenant would have to come in, and I know there was some issues about tenants not being around. So with regard to those sites, the property owner will be able to come in and receive those, and tenants would have an easier time coming in and out with having to go get new additional permits. With regard to parks, the current law states that 3 or more RVs on any given parcel is actually a park, an RV park. And what we did in this ordinance was basically said that the temporary quote-unquote RV parks would basically still have to follow all the same rules and procedures as the permanent parks. And so one of the concerns we had was that I can imagine some of these individuals will try to petition the council to turn their temporary RV parks into permanent parks. And we thought it made sense that if that was likely going to be the case, that all of that infrastructure be put in on the front end. And then that way, if they ever do come to y'all for a permanent approval or get a rezoning change, nothing new or additional would need to be done at the RV parks. The administration, based on discussions with Mr. France, Mr. Kognovich, the consensus with at least those 2 individuals was that the parish government would approve RV parks at 9 or less. So if you were coming in to get a RV park south of Jesuit Bend and you met all the regular rules and requirements, that the administration would have authority to authorize that. Anything 10 or more, I think is the rule, 10 or more would have to come to the council for conditional and then for conditional approval and I believe final approval as well. So that obviously the administration couldn't do that on its own. That would need council approval. The permits are going to be issued for 3 years. There will be an annual fee associated with that, $100 per space. And no permit term would exceed 4 years after the effective date in this ordinance. So if somebody comes to us in year 3 and says, I want to do this temporary park, or I want to do 2 sites, that person would not get a permit for 3 years. They would only get a permit for at a minimum 1 year. And then at any time, the council could obviously introduce another ordinance declaring a new need exists at that time. But the whole purpose of this is that it's quote unquote temporary in nature, and so therefore we all came to the agreement that 3 years was an appropriate number for something like this.
Thank you. I'm all for this, but we've got a problem. Trailer parks from Oakville down with regular sized trailers are kicking people out to get these $800 and $900 a month rentals. These people can't move their trailers anyway. I got a couple people call me, their trailers are sitting in an empty lot and nowhere to go with it, nowhere to put them. And I know we can't tell people they can't do it, but that's a problem we got. Mr. Black?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have quite a few questions that I need answered, because I really do not like this ordinance at all. No disrespect to you, Mr. LaFrance, I know you put a lot of work into it, but I do have some questions and some issues. The first one, where at in the ordinance does it say south of St. Jude Hump?
It doesn't say this in this ordinance because it's made pursuant to subsection 6, section 12 of the comprehensive zoning ordinance, and that's where it's located. It's located in the comprehensive zoning ordinance. So this ordinance is only being authorized pursuant to that subsection, and that subsection says that it's St. Jude South.
And is that clear enough legal language to not have any issues with somebody who wants to file
yeah.
some type of appeal with us, that it's not?
Yeah, legally, I don't have a problem with that. I believe that the comprehensive zoning ordinance, the only reason we're allowed to do this is because the comprehensive ordinance authorizes it in that subsection for that specific area.
All right. The second question is, you mentioned just now, south of Judgment Bend, approvals for 9 or less can be done by you guys.
I'm sorry, south of St. Jude.
Okay, well, you said Judgment Bend.
I apologize if I misspoke.
So there's no provision about Judgment Bend then? It's all
No,
just
this
St.
is only St. Jude South.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because you did say Judgment Bend.
Okay, I apologize if I misspoke. I meant to say St. Jude.
All right, my second question is, and I'll just go page by page. So, number 2, you mentioned 3 or more, but then when you reference back to, I guess, line item, hold on. So 3 or more is considered an RV park, right?
Correct.
All right, and then you go to 243, it says no temporary permit shall be issued for an RV park with 10 or more RV sites without first obtaining conditional and final approval from the council. I mean, and then you mentioned 9, that you guys can approve it, then why are we going from 3 to 9 to 10?
We discussed this in the meeting with Ms. LaFrance. I guess the question was, because these are going to be temporary, or the issue was, because these were going to be temporary, quote-unquote temporary in nature, or supposed to be, did the council want the administration to just issue these permits, or did the council want involvement in these permits? And I think the decision Ms. LaFrance and Mr. Kognovich agreed to was that, look, we want the administration to approve up to 9 of these, anything 10 or more, we want. The 2, I don't want you to get hung up on the 2-3 distinction. We are allowed to authorize, I think, RVs up to 2 in certain areas anyway already. Currently, if you want a permanent facility, you would have to come to the council for 3 or more. So what this does is this says from 3 to 9, because it's temporary, y'all are authorizing the administration to do it. 10 or more would have to come to the council, like the permanent ones would do.
So before I get to my next question, I'll interject this question, because you made a good point there, which caused me some concern from the 3 to 9, that they're going to be temporary. That's why you're allowing that to come to you guys, because it's going to be temporary. However, in your previous statements, you said that you put language in the ordinance to be specific to, in case somebody wants to come in later on and make it permanent. I think we're setting ourselves up for future failure, because folks in 3 years are going to try to make it permanent. And what is our recourse to basically deny it? I mean, we can deny it on face value. However, they're going to put all this infrastructure in. You know, I think if it's temporary, it needs to be temporary. And people who own these pieces of property need to realize, if you want to do a permanent one, then you go through the rules and regulations that are currently in place to do a permanent one. If you want to do a temporary one, then you go through this ordinance and do a temporary one, but it needs to be clear that when they get approval for this, that it's temporary. You know, and that brings me to my other question on page 2. Line 67 says, I'm sorry, let's start at 65. The department shall not accept any temporary permit application 3 years after the effective date of this ordinance. No temporary permit shall extend 4 years after the effective date of this ordinance. But then the next line says temporary permits issued pursuant to this ordinance shall not exceed the term of 3 years.
Correct.
So it seems a little contradictory to me. Maybe you can explain that?
Yeah, I can explain it. So the bottom line is nobody gets a permit, a temporary permit that exceeds 3 years, the term. So as soon as it's made effective, you get a permit for 3 years. Okay? No one can get more than 3 years under this ordinance. That's the first thing. The second thing is the ordinance is supposed to expire, okay, in 3 years. So anyone can come in the next 3 years and seek a temporary permit to operate a site or an RV park. And so what we're saying is within that 3-year period, say a person comes in year 2.5 and says, I'd like to take advantage of this ordinance. I want a temporary RV site or I want a park. Okay? Technically, because we're still in that 3-year window, I'll authorize that. Okay, but they're not going to get a permit for 3 years because now we're extending 5 years beyond when this ordinance was adopted. They would only get a permit for 1 year only, or up until the point at which 4 years past the adoption of this ordinance.
I got you.
Understand what I'm
Okay, I
saying?
understand. All right.
So they would only get it for 1.5 years,
Yeah.
not 3 years.
And at 3 years, we would decide if we still see the need to extend it, we can extend it, but that's the only way to go past 3 years.
Okay, I get it.
Correct. The intention is that obviously with that phrase in there, no permits, we will accept no more permits after 3 years. The ordinance dies. Nobody can come in and get an ordinance then. The council would have to come in and say, you know, we still have Venture Global going on, we still have housing needs, et cetera. We're going to reenact this for another 3 years. And then the administration, I mean, obviously you could change the rules at that point, or if we like the rules and everything's going fine, then you would just basically extend this for another 3 years.
All right. My last couple questions is the second to last page, starting at 255. So you mentioned, kind of in the same sentence, it's not listed in your definitions, in your terms of reference in front, how many constitute a site and how many constitute a park. I know a park is 3 or more. However, would a site be would be less than 3, so 1 or 2? And
A site is a okay. So
it doesn't classify what a site is.
okay. So
And we're charging $100 per RV site.
correct.
Is that per unit?
Per
Okay,
spot.
so I'm using the word site, okay? So
As what?
site is an RV site. So you pull your RV up, you hook up your site, you know, you pull your truck, you know.
One RV,
unit.
one.
I guess you would be calling it a unit. So that's a site, right? So you're allowed 2 sites. Most properties are allowed 2 sites. When you get to your 3rd site, you're becoming an RV park.
It's just, I get now, I mean, that you define site, which I don't agree with the definition of site. I think it's going to be confusing to some people because they're going to come in and want an RV site of 9, if I wanted to, if an RV park is 3 or more, just why is it just not called a park and then put?
The site within the park.
Put it in a definition.
Could put an
At
RV
least
spot.
you got to at least define it in the terms.
Well, it
because-
says a site, a specific, and you may say you don't think this is specific enough, but it's a specific area within a recreational vehicle park or parcel of property that is set aside for use as a temporary living site. I mean, temporary living site, I mean, if you want me to put per RV to make it clear that it's
Look, I don't know.
for only one RV, but these are the same, these are the same terms that are used in the other ordinances. I'm not aware that we've ever had a real problem with that definition, but,
Okay, I got you. He's right. I see it. I got it. Yeah, I got it. I seen it.
I can put, after site, I could.
That's
put-
fine. No, he defined it. That's fine. The last thing I have is on 271. I think this is one of the most serious issues.
Wait, I'm sorry, can you say that again, to what?
71.
Subsection 12B. It starts at 271
Okay.
about, it's the fines, and so you don't list in there, and I see most ordinances that are enforceable about some type of fine or penalty by imprisonment is, it clearly defines PPSO as the authority to conduct those enforcement activities. We don't have that in there, and I know from dealing with PPSO on issues, it's always, well, who's the responsible party for enforcing it? Is it code enforcement or is it PPSO? And I know, listen, we are gonna have a lot of problems at these RV parks. And, you know, it's gonna be a lot worse than I think people think. So I wanna have that clearly kind of defined as to who's gonna be in enforcement. And I think the fines are low too. But you don't have to answer the question. I'm not sure where I'm gonna go with this. But I'll yield the floor. I just wanted those questions asked, and,
Well, we,
huh?
Just, you finish?
I don't know what he's talking about.
so,
What you was,
I will, I mean, once again, I don't think that's a problem. I mean, the state statutes don't say, I mean, I guess some do, will say, the sheriff of the local jurisdiction will enforce this or whatever. Not all of ours have that. I understand you're saying it's been a problem in the past. I don't mind adding it. I mean, we certainly don't have arresting powers. I don't have arresting powers. So when you say that, you're subject to imprisonment, et cetera, I mean, I kind of view that as, de facto, that's something the sheriff has to do. But if for clarity, or if you all would like to amend it and add that this will be enforced by the sheriff's office, then we can do that. Certainly, that's for criminal penalties and fines. We will have civil remedies available to us as well. And so we can certainly go to court in the civil realm and seek to have a TRO ordered. We could ask for a declaratory judgment revoking somebody's temporary permit if they're not doing what they're supposed to do.
all I'm saying is, for the last 7.5 years, one of the major things we deal with is deciphering exactly what these ordinances on trailer parks or temporary trailer parks or RV sites even mean. And we always seem to get in some type of litigation over them because they're so unclear and outdated, and it's just, look, I'm gonna pass on this one today. If y'all wanna go move forward, if you got the votes, that's fine, but, it affects, Richard Carlton, how about you guys, I was from St. Jude South. All I envision is, we talk about 3,000 workers, and we say we have 10 units per RV park. I mean, that's 300 of these RV parks throughout the lower end of the parish from St. Jude South. And I don't know if we have the enforcement capacity or had those discussions. I don't know. I'm a rest.
Mr. Roussel?
Yes, I just need a clarification on line 158. Have hard surfacing of the public street right-of-way from the existing surface to the property line. What does that really mean?
Would you say, Mr. Russo, 158, on F?
On G.
Oh, G.
I'm trying to figure out
Have
what
hard
that
surface,
means.
public street and right and or existing surface to the property line. So for RV parks, we make them, if they're not adjacent to a public road, we make them have a roadway and or access to the public road or the nearest public right of way. So they're responsible, same thing for subdivision development. They're responsible for having a hard surface road from the RV park to the highway or parish road.
So they have to have it concrete or blacktop, or can it be rock?
Well, I think some are rocked. I mean, I haven't, I don't, I'm not, I haven't been involved in enforcement of that. I know a lot of them are limestone, and so clearly the permit department has let that go. Or
I'm
at
just
least
trying to make sure that,
it's,
we don't come back here in 2 weeks saying, I can't afford to put a concrete drive down there, I want to put rock.
rock.
yeah,
It doesn't say.
yeah.
It says have hard surfacing.
Yeah, I mean,
So is your head, but
Every rock that hit me was hard.
I would expect them to do, I would expect them to do what they've always done,
okay, so we can accept rock. That's all.
It's my understanding we have accepted rock. Now, I don't want to speak for the permit office, but yeah, I mean, grass, mud, we don't want people stuck. We want to make sure emergency vehicles can get where they need to go. I think that's what the intention of that clause is.
Should we include, say, hard surfacing, including rock?
That goes to the permit office for them to.
I imagine the permit office would be construing this the way they've always construed it. I mean, that's all I can say. If you want me to throw in there hard surfacing, including limestone and/or other aggregate, I mean, I can do that if that makes you feel better, but.
Well, if the permit department accepts it, that makes me feel better, but, as long as we don't have to come back and fix it.
Ms. Newberry?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was the only one that didn't support Mr. LaFrance's ordinance on the St. Jude. And I know we had the need, and I know Mr. Black obviously wasn't here at the time, but my heartache was having this around residential areas with children when a neighbor may put an RV and the neighbor may not want the RV. I was struggling with that issue, and also putting any RVs in a floodplain. So that's why I didn't support it. I don't think y'all have done a bad job putting this together, and I just really want to thank you guys, because I did talk to Mitra, and I have spoken to you, Rennie, and the statement I had said, if y'all going to do this, at least let the public be aware of where these temporary trailer parks are. So thank you, Mr. LaFrance, for putting that in here, showing that you have to make some type of notice showing where the temporary permits are to the public. So thank you for that. I also have a question. How are we going to handle, and I think this is a parish-wide issue, RVs that have to move every 6 months? I mean, do they just play musical RVs? They have to be moved every
The 180-day rule?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's our understanding from FEMA that after 180 days, they need to move. So, and my understanding from Zach is that rule is enforced on a per-site basis. So for 180 days, not a per-park basis, but a per-site basis, is that really what's going to happen is they're going to have to rotate, they're going to have to move, and we're going to have to document over the course of time, which is why we're increasing the annual fee to $100, that when we get audited from FEMA or FEMA goes down there, we need to make sure they don't see the same trailer in the same spot 3 years from now. So if you read that one form that one section where it's going to give the department and us authority to write an affidavit, have them do an affidavit and create a form, all that information is going to be detailed in there. And,
Who has to, we have to make sure these RV sites are doing that, or is that FEMA?
Say that again, make sure they're.
Who's responsible for making sure this happens? They move these RVs every 180 days.
The owner.
We got one guy that works in it, just one guy.
The owner has to.
The owner is responsible for it. Once again,
I just don't want to make sure, I just don't want FEMA to come in and blame it on the government.
We're going to try to make it as easy as possible. We're going to try to make it easy as possible on the owner, but at the end of the day, the owner is going to be responsible for that. And if we go out there and it's the same RV a year from now, then they're risking their temporary permit, because they would then be in violation of the ordinance, and we could seek to have their temporary permit rescinded. My intentions are to have all of that outlined in that affidavit. So if something happens or someone doesn't follow the rules and regulations, I can point to that affidavit and say, you remember signing this? And so, then I feel a lot more comfortable getting in front of a judge and saying, he understood what the rules and regulations were.
I just want to make sure that the government is not responsible to make sure these trailers are plain.
Well, we will have to do additional enforcement. Once again, that's why we're
Paperwork.
seeking to have these fees be at $100. Mr. LaFrance has also agreed to, well, he just introduced two ordinances, one ordinance today, also increasing the fees per site for full-size trailer homes and permanent trailer homes. So that, I think, will give us, I can't tell you what the exact revenue on that will be, but that revenue should be significant enough for us to have a much better or better robust enforcement provisions.
That gets back to Habo's concern, which is valid, that, so there's an ordinance now to increase the annual fees for permanent sites, right?
Correct.
Okay, or larger mobile homes.
Or
So why wouldn't I, if I own a site that can have 20 mobile homes, full-time residential mobile homes, and I have to pay, $400 a year in an annual fee for those homes, I'm saving money if I just make it a temporary RV site, put probably twice as many, pay $100 a year, and then charge X amount of money more, So, I mean, to Habo's point, that,
well, the price is going to be the same across the board. So every space will be $100, whether you're permanent, temporary, RV or trailer park. So that's going to be parity. The other thing, I guess, and the only thing, look, and I understand what you're saying, Mr. Black, because we discussed this in the meeting. It's really going to be on the property owner, because once again, the property owner is only guaranteed 3 years. That's it. So each individual developer is going to have to say to themselves, okay, well, this is what it's going to cost for me to have a quote-unquote temporary RV park, and they're going to have to take that risk and do an analysis on whether or not they can make enough money to justify putting in the infrastructure necessary for a temporary park. And if they make that decision, that's on them. And there's no guarantee that the council will extend this another 3 years. And if they don't, that's it. They're out of business. And so whatever investment they made, I hope after year 3 they were able to recoup it, because their only other option is to come to you all and have number one, their property rezoned MH. So they'd have to go through the rezoning hurdles.
I don't think anybody's going to go ahead and go
And-
the alternative route, because
And they may
I
not.
sit here and represent District 2, and I can't even begin to tell you how many calls I get about this, saying, hey, we want a trailer park, hey, we want an RV park, hey, how do we go about getting a temporary site? So I think anybody who has that opportunity in land, they're going to take advantage of it. So I don't think there's going to be anybody worried about an investment after 3 years. They're in for a quick buck right now.
Right. Well, once again, this was to address concerns Mr. LaFrance had and goals and objectives he was trying to achieve so that people.
Well, I think we have to make the decision whether we want the money to stay in Plaquemines Parish and the traffic to stay on the lower end, or do we push all these people out of the parish and they travel morning and night throughout the parish, add more traffic. So that's a decision we have to make. It's not an easy decision.
Right.
I know we have some things on the table that coming forward.
Well,
We have to make decisions.
I mean, we all know getting down the road, being down the road is becoming more and more expensive and harder to do. And so I think the question for Ms. LaFrance and, our down the road council persons are, a lot of people like to hunt, fish. They like the scenery down there, and so a lot of people are going to be, I think, taking advantage of this. And at a minimum, if some of these folks can't live there because they can't afford to raise their house or anything like that, then perhaps there's an incentive for them to have small RV parks or perhaps, generate a little revenue or something to help them on that. So, that's a policy decision for the council, though. That's, not really a legal issue about whether or not I think that's good or bad, if that makes sense.
Mr. Bartholomew?
I'm trying to clear up something. I heard that they can only live in that particular park for 6 months.
No,
Site, no, it's site. Correct.
on that spot, but they could just move to the next spot and
So they have to be in the site.
If the first hurricane comes, they could be evacuating anyway.
That is common in other areas. Routes.
That's about right.
I got a site with so many trailers.
It's an automatic.
You gotta move from one place next door.
you just gotta play,
That's common. In other districts and other states.
and that's because of FEMA.
That's still, I mean,
That's FEMA. Does FEMA make it sense on anything? Mr. Black?
I'm good with that.
up, Doc.
Mr. Roussel?
Yes, the way I look at this ordinance is that it gives opportunity for people to come down, explore Plaquemines, learn what it's about, and maybe fall in love with it and move here permanently. So I would hope that we would be able to repopulate the southern end of the parish with this effort, and that way they'll be used to raising their houses and be up in the air, and before you know it, we'll have a population down there that we'll be happy to have. So let's move the question.
Mr. Alborough?
I just, and I'm trying to find the number, but I know we were talking about the hard surface, but there's also where access for ambulances and garbage trucks. Are we going to be responsible for these roads if the garbage trucks put potholes?
Mr. Burris?
You're not responsible for it, was it?
Sorry, Mr. Garrett was talking to me.
The provision about the hard surface road, and then there's also a provision about adequate spacing for fire trucks, garbage trucks. Are we responsible for any damage to their roads from our garbage trucks?
No, actually, no. And the garbage trucks shouldn't really be going through there. It's really only should be for emergency vehicles. I mean, obviously, if the police have to respond or the ambulance or whatever. If you read, hold on one second.
Line 163, fire, garbage, ambulance, etc.
There's a clause in here that specifically says that's on the property owner.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions?
One.
Yeah.
You can't park a airboat in this spot. I said, we waiting on you. Got somewhere to go.
All right, certainly. So
Somewhere to go, still. Yeah.
So for section 7, the following are infrastructure and installation requirements for the construction of RV parks. There's a series of letters there. R seems to be the last one, I'd like to add S.
Mr. Blink's
R,
making an
right,
amendment.
through R, correct.
What do you have?
Sure, I'd like to add no live oak or bald cypress above 10 inches in diameter can be destroyed in the creation of one of these temporary RV parks.
Mr. Blink offers, is there a second?
I like it. However, the fine's gonna be, could be $200. I mean, are you gonna put a provision on a fine? Because if you, I hate belaboring this, but
No,
like,
but I mean, I just-
you know, any person, firm, or corporation violating any provision of this ordinance shall be fined not less than $250, no more than $500. So say you got a 200-year-old live oak tree, guy says, I gotta move this to fit 4 trailers in it. The max fine he's gonna get is $500.
And the firewood.
And the fire, and free firewood.
My idea is that we approve subdivisions in Belchase and knock down hundreds of oak trees on a regular basis.
I've consistently not been voting for those.
No, and I'm,
Okay.
and Mr. Russo, I'm in the process of creating an ordinance to prohibit cutting down certain trees and species and sizes and everything else.
Problem is, it's already done. It's over. They'd already cleared them those 400 lots. Anyway.
$1,000.
Any questions about Mr. Blink's amendment? Read it again, please.
Got it. Certainly. So this would be letter S, no live oak or bald cypress above 10 inches in diameter can be destroyed in the creation of a temporary RV park.
Penalty?
What's that?
Penalty.
Penalty at $1,000 fine.
Is in there?
Danny clarified something. He said, once the oak's gone, It's just gonna be each day that it's gone, I guess. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, and if you look in the violations and penalty section, it's fairly common. You are limited at $500 a day, at $500 max fine, but each day that a violation occurs would be a separate violation. Now, I'm not exactly sure how that would work with the cutting down of the tree, but like, for example, on the 180-day provision, if they stayed 185 days, you could actually charge them with 5 violations. And so the maximum fine would end up being $2,500. Because that is a difficult, you're right. Sometimes people say, well, I can make $5,000, so I'll pay a $500 fine. So you got to make the fine, but I'm not sure how you would handle it with regard to the cutting down of the tree. Unless you said if they did that, that voided their permit.
Look, I mean, we're just trying to set the tone, trying to avoid this kind of thing on the front end. If people see it in there, you know, maybe they'll have their head screwed on straight before bulldozing, you know, something that's potentially long lasting.
Yeah, machines are open on Mr. Blink's amendment.
Verbal, yeah.
It's just the amendment, right?
Yes, Mr. Bartholomew. It passes 7-1. 8-1, with Mr. Alberg. It's my yard, it's my tree. I do what I want with it. Now we're gonna vote on the amendment. You wanna go with it, Mr.
Yes, sir.
France? Ms. LaFrance offered, I seconded. Any other questions? Administration, audience, machines are open.
Verbal, yes.
It passes 8 with 1 abstention.
Agenda item 9B.
Be back.
Agenda item 9C is deferred. Agenda item 9D, an ordinance to name a certain body of water on the east bank of the Mississippi River across from Buras that connects to Mississippi River to Quarantine Bay as Avulsion Pass and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Blink.
Mr. Blink, your offer?
The offer is read.
Mr. Blink offers there a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. LaFrance seconds it. Mr. Blink?
Sure. There's a new waterway on the east side of the river. This gives a nod that it exists, allows us to name it and ask the court to do what they can to get it under control with an eye towards land building.
Well, Mr. Blink, that new canal's been there for 40 years that I've been going down and hunting. And it was Ragged's Canal, all the,
The crevasse?
well, it was a Kool-Aid before. So I don't know how we're gonna rename it something. Ms. Newberry?
So I just want to give everyone the definition of his pass that he wants to name, Avulsion Pass. Avulsion is a sudden separation of land from one's property caused by flooding or a change in the course of the river. FYI.
Mr. Bartholomew?
I'd just like to advise everybody, this is the East Bank area, and I just want to let you know that's where it's located. And I represent that East Bank district. I just want to let you know, I didn't have an attitude with my colleagues on the end, but I just want to let you know this is the East Bank. And normally I try to give East Bank names, you know, but we don't have, since that's all right. I'll accept it today.
Mr. Blink?
Certainly, yeah. Just because of the transformative nature of the waterway, I mean, the old one is, you know, nearly gobbled up and gone away. There's some other bodies of water over there in that area, Bayou Torleon. There's the old village over there, Neptune. It was a small oyster town, a little cannery there. You know, there's a lot of historic names in that area.
Right next to my trailer, they got, that was a canal, dry cypress before, but it's a ditch now, so.
How many cypress trees y'all knocked down?
A bunch.
So I'm going to ask the question, is Mr. Blank willing to move forward with this or defer it to have more conversations with his colleagues?
I mean, is it something you have concerns about? Okay. I mean,
They sound like they will.
I mean, I'd like to move forward with it. I mean, it's the thing is, it's concerning. We should all be concerned, and I'm not using hyperbole here when,
Every canal out there, every ditch out there's got a name on it, so now we're gonna rename everything, so.
yeah, y'all might want to listen, this is quite important here.
Yeah, so is mine, it was a name already. So Konovich Pass down in, South Pass, we're gonna rename that to Hobo Pass?
Mardi Gras Pass, Bartholomew Pass.
So Mark, I just, I want to be clear here. I mean, this is to get the attention of the Corps of Engineers.
They know it's there.
Look, we can go back with the rhetorical back and forth stuff, but the fact of the matter is that this thing could potentially capture the main flow of the Mississippi River. It needs to be managed very thoughtfully, and we need help in the matter. And flagging it, naming it for what it is key to doing that. I just really appreciate y'all's support so we can get some traction here.
Well, we let somebody name Mardi Gras Pass when we already had a Mardi Gras Pass. Now, when you say Mardi Gras Pass, which one you want? The one by Fort Jackson or one in Port Sulphur?
Yeah, that's right. That's
So,
I agree with you there. All right, I yield.
okay.
I do appreciate
Any
this.
other questions? Machine's open.
Verbal no.
Mr. Bartholomew? It passes 5-1 and 2 abstentions, or 5-2, 2 abstentions.
Thank you for the support.
Agenda item 9E, an ordinance to rescind, annul, and set aside ordinance number 22-52, which rescinded, annulled, and set aside ordinance number 20-24 adopted on February 27, 2020, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Konovich.
I'll offer as for second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bartholomew. This is the, take it away from us and the port will be able to take it over. Any questions? Machine's open.
Verbal yes.
Passes 9-0.
Nine F, an ordinance to amend the 2022 Public Health Fund operating expenditure budget, ambulances, general department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Konovich.
I'll offer as for second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Newberry. This is the move money into the,
Putting money back in the EMS budget. With the gap money that we've gone after, we've had to spend money in dues. In fact, we spent almost $200,000 in dues to collect $464,000 in gap money. So what this is doing is putting money back into EMS's budget so they can buy medical supplies and we can maintain ambulances.
Mr. Black?
All right, so you're putting back 200, what is the total amount of funds being transferred in this ordinance?
464,000.
You sure it reads that way?
The top fees, charges, community health.
It looked like it's an increase in.
Yeah, make sure that ordinance is right. I got an increase of 464, I got an increase of 198, and I've got an increase of 265.
Let me look at that.
It does look like there's something wrong with it. Ronnie, do you have any?
Yeah, I think it's decrease, increase, decrease, decrease. All of these are saying increase.
Where's amendment? Blah, blah, blah.
The 464,000 was the total collected by the ambulance service.
Each line item's an increase, so it's whatever the total is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's increasing all of them.
We were paid by the ambulance lines $464,000. It's taking 198.2 and putting it in memberships and dues and 265.8 and putting it in professional services.
Should have been decreased, that's the money you spent.
No, it's putting it back into membership to replace what was spent.
Yeah, it adds up. You gotta take operating and professional, add them together, and it makes the 464.
Correct.
Yeah, I get that, but it's all an increase to ambulance general department.
Yeah, it's a different code though, I don't know what the 447 code is. Specifically.
Yeah, but the code 447 is within the 555-2700, which the fund is the 004 Public Health Fund. I just want to make sure that when we had this discussion during the budget hearings, and we moved money from one fund to another fund, and then paid for EMS out of the Public Health Fund, and then the other fund services we paid for to keep EMS working, because we lost the millage proposal, that we're not just kind of backfilling an additional $464,000 to keep it running.
The $464,000 is the total amount of money we've collected in the first 2 quarters of this year from the Ambulance Alliance for the gap money that we've paid $198,000 in dues towards to get that. So this $464,000 is going back in the EMS budget. $198,200 is going into operating services, and the $265,800 is going into professional services.
And there should be a decrease in fees, charges, comms, health. It should be a decrease of 464, and then an increase of 198, 265.
That money had not gone into EMS's budget though.
But there should be another object line that states where the 464 is coming from.
This is a finance thing. I don't know.
You want to defer it till you Tom in?
I mean, this is why I agree that we need to, and I agree with the chairman that we need to have some type of mid-year budget review, because I think that we're going to be behind on EMS funding. But I just want to make sure we're not trying to put money in here. It's up to y'all. I'm going to abstain from this anyway, so.
We'll defer this item.
It's not right.
Okay.
Well, if it's coming from the fund balance, they're not going to have a decrease. It's,
You got 2 weeks to fix it.
Next item.
Agenda item 9G, an ordinance to amend the 2022 general fund revenue budget and operating expenditure budget, coastal zone management department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Konovich.
I'll offer as for a second.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Blink. Mr. Helmers.
All right, can we get this up on a screen, Christian?
No, it's me.
Oh, there we go, that's you, okay. As you know, Go Mesa came in this year, $274,000 over what was budgeted for Go Mesa. Speaking of Go Mesa, we continuously work on lifting that cap and lobbying to raise those revenues from 37.5% to 50%. We were pretty good this year, so we'd like to take the funds, the overages, and put it into the heavy equipment inside of coastal for this machine called the Marshmaster. As you can see, it's on your screen right now. It's an all aluminum vehicle. It's about 8 foot wide. It's got all the specifics here. I had sent you guys the link and everything to it. It comes with a variety of attachments, which will be used parish-wide for an array of different projects, but mainly to clear canals of invasive species, manage the outfall of those pump stations, and to even help maintain and cut drainage ditches along the way. As you can see on the screen now, they show this vegetation blade. This is for when it's in the water, and you can push those lilies and invasive species up and out the way without having to mobilize a crane. This unit is pulled around on the back of a trailer by a pickup truck, so it don't require an 18-wheeler to locate it all over the place. It also comes with a sprayer to where we can defoliate and put herbicides in it to knock it all down. And then a backhoe to areas that we need to get to that we can't get to by a regular trackhoe or vehicle in the marsh area. This is a complete amphibious unit. And then the final piece, I really like this attachment. This is a ditch cutter where we could straddle the existing ditches and ride down the middle of the ditch, and it'll clean them out. and help us out along with that. Again, you can see this stuff if you go to the Marshmaster link that I sent you. You can see the videos on how all this works. It has an array of attachments and different accessories for it. And I would appreciate you guys' support and let us move forward on this one.
Ms. Newberry?
Yeah, thank you, John. I have two concerns. The first one is the track. So when we go use it, when we use it in the back for around levies or on property, not property, I know we usually have servitudes, but I mean, it's going to track up that.
It's not a heavy machine, so it's not going to be like an excavator rod.
Well, I'm going to tell you, just for tractor, when they go through my yard, I have
Right.
a problem with that. So I can't imagine this going through somebody's yard or the levee. So that concerns me. That may be a future problem. I do like the equipment because it has a lot of versatility and we could probably use it. The second question is, do we have an operator?
Yes, it'll be assigned to the coastal department, and we'll have one operator from coastal or two, and then we'll have one operator from prom that we're going to train to help us out on that. So it's one of those.
Mr. Helmer, where are we going to pull that guy from?
I just told you, coastal, our guy.
What does he do? What does he do now? What job are you pulling him from to do this job? We're short on manpower, Mr. Helmer, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but those are questions that need to be asked.
You know what? In this day and age in the parish right now, we have to necessitate a person to facilitate that project, and it don't matter where they come from. But this unit will get used, and it's much needed. There is some people in prom that we feel that could help out and cut along. That's really excellent operators on tractors and cutting grass. And we also have our coastal management people that can come in and run this unit. So it's, as y'all said way back, we have to cross-train, cross-work. Yes, so that's what we do right now.
I'm willing to run it in my district.
Hey, that's not a problem.
I'll be happy to train. Thank you.
We will sign you.
Yeah.
Well, I think the least amount of area that you need to try it in, so you don't have a lot of comprehensive travel, traffic, and all that is the East Bank. And
That's right.
You won't be no interference.
I've already seen when I went back to.
Yeah, when like the West Bank, you got a lot of traffic on it. It's very dangerous.
Mr. Blink?
Yeah, so Ms. Newberry, the width of the tracks are really gonna help with sinking, right? It won't punch through all at once, but it's pretty well distributed there. I think this is a really useful tool to have. What's the cost with all the attachments? And are all these attachments gonna come with it, or is that for later?
All those attachments that I showed you on the screen, we're gonna try to get the most for the bang of the buck. I sent you a copy of the quote. It's right at $200,000, but that was about 4 or 5 months ago, so I have to re-quote it again, but it'll be within that 250,000 range. And if we can get more attachments than what we have listed there, we will. We will get the maximum amount that we can get for that unit.
And just to be clear, this could do everything from, cutting around the edges of the water at the boat harbors, helping sweep vegetation at the drainage canal, and cutting ditches like along Woodland Highway, right?
Yes, everywhere.
Since we don't. Wait, when does it arrive?
I don't know what the wait time is on it. They have a lot of stock up there. I mean, these units are very in demand. But on your question about the tracks, Ms. Newberry, they're 28 inches wide. So it's not like a big giant machine that's going to crush everything.
It should have less impact than what a tractor would have. A heavy tractor would have less impact.
I see small use for what we could do, but the machine I sent you a video on.
Yeah, I like that one too.
And
I don't have the funds.
it's a little more, but we could dredge the boat harbors, dredge the drainage canal, dredge anything we need. And it has all the attachments to go with it, like you.
Why don't I buy 2 more of those things?
Mr. Roussel?
Yeah, I like the equipment also, but this is one-time money?
No, this money comes in every year. This is a one-time overage of the 190,000. I mean, 1.9 million we usually get. If drilling succeeds and we get more money out of the oil field leases, it will be
Right.
additional more money.
So that's why I was under the impression that we would use this money to beef up our payroll more so than to buy more equipment. And I guess that's a decision that we got to make, because in the past, when we've come to the table trying to buy pieces of equipment, the argument was always we didn't need it, or we didn't want it, or we didn't have people to run it. This is a continuing source of revenue that we could boost the payroll and hire operators. And if we're not going to do that, then we're going to stack equipment up and rotate people out. And one day you'll operate this equipment, that equipment will sit there for a week, and then you roll to the next one, like the grader, for instance. The grader is not utilized nowhere near what it should be utilized. But that's just my observation on whether we buy new toys or we buy people to run the old toys.
Mr. LaFrance?
What type of engine they have in there?
It is a, hold on, let me pull down here. I think it's a Kohler, 74 horsepower, turbocharged diesel Kohler engine.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Do we have any warranty on, what's the warranty level on that? Since it got so many different components to it.
Right, I would have to get that. I'm sure it's at least 1 year on the warranty.
Oh, that's guaranteed.
Yeah, that's.
No extended stuff.
Right, right.
So we can't keep all our tractors repaired, you know?
Well, this one will be assigned to the coastal department, and we'll make sure that it's kept up and well.
Mr. Black?
Yeah, getting back to Mr. Russo's point, and Ms. Newberry's point about having operators to actually operate this as opposed to just buying assets. That same machine was used on Woodland Highway. I think the rate was relatively inexpensive. Would it behoove us to take that 274 and on an as-needed professional services contract, have somebody who owns this machine or a similar machine, a company go out and tackle jobs, as opposed to us owning it and then having to do the maintenance, repairs, hire an employee to learn how to operate it, et cetera? I mean, would it be better just to?
If we had a reoccurring revenue stream, possibly, but
But I thought this was reoccurring. And that was Mr.
but it's
Russo,
not dedicated. It's not a dedicated funding.
right?
It's reoccurring, but it's not a dedicated.
But nothing's dedicated.
Okay,
Till
so,
we decide what it's dedicated to.
exactly.
So if we would dedicate it to professional services for this specific operation, we might save a substantial amount of money annually and not have to do the maintenance, repair, the hiring of the employee, the training, whatever, and knock these projects out, do multiple projects at one time. Because I can envision, and, you know, this machine being caught up and 9 council members complaining why it's not in my district and it's in another person's district, as opposed to having multiple contracts out there. Right, Scott?
I understand exactly what you're saying.
All right.
But, you know, to go out and get a contract and follow that procedure, if we need something done, it's not getting done in 6 weeks. It's not getting done possibly 3 months to 6 months, and then you really have a problem.
No, 30 days, because you
Well-
go out for RFQ, and then you get 3 quotes because it's under a certain amount of money, and then they come out and they actually do the work. But
I had a guy from Weed Out, gave me a quote on taking the lilies out of the Fort Moat. And it was $5,000.
So, yeah, you can take it out
And
5 times.
yeah, and the tourism board said they'll pay for it, so that's where I'm at. But that's how cheap it would be to get them in the drainage canal, and he said he did all of that. He would.
Yeah, I think Woodland was the same way, about 5 grand, maybe less. Anyway.
Thank you. Any other
Listen,
questions?
I'm not beating you up, John.
No,
I just beat up the last administration for buying a bunch of equipment that sat around,
Right.
buying culvert and pipe that just sat around.
Yeah, no,
So,
I get it.
you know,
I get it.
trains sat
John, I
around.
think we always support new equipment, but I think we're are struggling here with manpower and using this money wisely. Of course, I would buy it tomorrow if I known we actually had a man on it and we're going to apply it to District 6, but we know that's not going to happen. So maybe we need to change this ordinance and just accept the money, and we'll have to figure out how we're going to use the extra the money, so that's up to the board if they agree to that.
Just remember, hurricane season's coming.
Are you gonna get on it, John?
RFQ, you got 297.
Look, you just said $5,000. Let's take $5,000 and get somebody to clean up the.
Would you like to defer it and talk to him some more?
I do take, look,
Gonna defer that item?
take a little exception to that. You can't, don't say that in public, that hurricane season's coming and we're not gonna appropriate the money. You just said you have no idea how long it's gonna take to get this thing here. So let's let the public know that just because the council's deferring this and not buying this equipment, it might not be here for hurricane season regardless. So, all right,
I agree.
all right, thanks.
Defer that item? Can we go back to F?
Agenda item 9F, an ordinance to amend the 2022 Public Health Fund operating expenditure budget, ambulance general department, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Kanovich.
I'll offer as for a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gui. What was y'all got y'all answers? The 464 is money coming in and it's just putting it towards those two line items.
Tommy said we could adopt it as is, but if you all want to create the revenue budget section, we can do an amendment. I just wrote something up here real quick,
So it was incorrect.
creating a revenue budget. Yeah, you were correct. It was not coming from a fund balance. It was additional revenue. So that fees, charges, this object code should have been in a revenue section code, increasing that. So I kind of wrote that up on here, and if you guys want to approve that as amended, we can do that. So.
Go ahead and
Mr.
read.
Cottage, you want to offer an amendment?
Yes.
Okay. The amendment is striking out on line 15, 447.005, fees, charges, /health, increase 4,6,400. We're going to be creating new section 2, and it just says the 2022 revenue budget is amended as follows. And it's Fund 004, Public Health Fund, Department Division 552700, Ambulances General Department, and that is creating code 497.005, fees, charges, /health, increase of 464,000.
I'll offer with those changes. You have a second by Dr. Gui. Any questions? Machines are open.
Verbal, yes.
Councilmember Bartholomew.
Mr. Bartholomew? That passes 9-0. Can we go to H and K?
Yes, sir. 9H, a resolution authorizing and directing the parish president or his designee to do all things necessary and proper to negotiate, execute, perfect, and enforce any and all documents required to apply for a local government assistance program grant from the Office of Community Services in the amount of $150,000 to purchase vehicles for the following departments: 1 3/4-ton diesel pickup truck for flood control, 1 half-ton pickup for recreation, 1 mid-sized pickup for flood control, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Kanovich.
I'll offer as for a second. Second by Mr. Roussel. Any questions? Machines open.
Verbal, yes.
Passes 7-0. Let the record show Dr. Gui stepped out for a second. K? 8-0, I'm sorry.
9K, a resolution authorizing and directing the parish president or his designee to do all things necessary and proper to negotiate, execute, perfect, and enforce any and all documents required to apply for a community water enrichment grant of $150,000 to penetrate the St. Bernard flood wall with pipe in order to have the ability to connect to St. Bernard water as a safeguard against losing water service on the east bank of the parish, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Bartholomew.
Offer as read.
Mr. Bartholomew offers there a second. Second by Mr. Roussel. Any questions?
Yeah, is this the yearly grant that we received, the Community Water Enrichment Grant, and we allocate it to this project? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. This is the grant we apply for annually to use for a water project.
Just get that. Thank you.
Any other questions? Machines open.
Verbal, yes.
Ms. Newberry? Passes 9-0.
9I, a resolution authorizing the cooperative endeavor agreement between the Parish of Jefferson and the Parish of Plaquemines regarding the enrollment of Plaquemines Parish firefighters in classes held at the Jefferson Parish Fire Training Center and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Konovich.
I'll offer ask for a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Alborough. This is so they could go use their equipment to train.
Yeah, this is so we can send firefighters to fire training in Jefferson Parish.
Thank you. Any questions?
Is this new firefighters or is just a repetitious with our firemen we already have?
It's both.
Any other questions? Machines open.
Verbal, yes.
Passes 9-0.
9J, an ordinance authorizing the acceptance of a donation for the Davant Swimming Pool and to amend the 2022 General Fund operating revenue and expenditure budgets and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Bartholomew.
Offer.
Mr. Bartholomew offers. I'll second. Any questions?
That is, it's the money that the fire department received from Stonehaven to buy the chemicals to support buying of chemical for the Davant pool. And they have the money, so the parish will be buying them, transfer the money to Plaquemines Parish government. So it give us a better price on buying all the chemicals.
Thank you. Any other questions? Machines open.
Verbal, yes.
Passes 9-0.
Agenda item 9L, an ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan for the renovations animal shelter project and the 2022 general fund revenue budget and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Black, and this has changes.
Yes, I'll offer with the changes, line 5. Scratch out 1825003, add 1855003. Line 16, scratch out 1825003 and add 1855003. Line 21, scratch out 1825003, add 1855003. This is just changes based on the additional $30-something thousand we received from the settlement.
Mr. Black offers with those changes. I'll second. Any questions?
Do we have to put this out for RFQ or RFP once this money's received and we need to get someone to,
Yeah, I believe any appropriation of funds.
We will have to hire a consultant to do a design. The design will address the most needed areas like the roof, the foundation, and
Exterior.
the outside walls of that building. So the design will be done. Once the design's done, then it'll have to go out for public bid.
okay, thank you, Tom.
Any other questions? Mr. Roussel?
While we hire this design engineer, I would hope that we can negotiate a fee for this project because I'm taking a lot of heat for the engineering design fees on that boat launch.
Design on the what?
What?
Yes, sir.
So let's negotiate a reasonable
Cement
fee.
slab,
Sure.
$250,000.
72.
Any other questions? Machines open.
Verbal, yes.
Passes 9-0.
M is withdrawn, already been submitted to the state.
N is deferred.
Agenda item 10, approval of the minutes from the May 12th, 2022 regular meeting.
I'll offer ask for a second. Second by Mr. Blink. Any questions? Machines are open.
Wait. No, that's fine.
Verbal,
Can
yes.
you go back to me after?
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes.
And it passes 9-0. Mr. Black?
Yeah, Mr. Konovich, can we go, just suspension of the rules, 11A, I believe. If you go to it, I'll explain what this is.
11A? Yeah,
We don't have a line item on it? I'll read it.
go ahead, Mr. Black.
Yeah, basically what this is Mr. Burris just gave me this. We have to just accept the settlement of the 30,000 that we just added to the settlement, the total settlement of 1,855,000. So this just resolution authorizes them to accept the settlement. Yeah, I mean, if you want to read it, come on, be good. I already know what it is. Thanks.
A resolution authorizing partial settlement of Plaquemines Parish Government versus MAP Construction LLC, ABC Insurance Company, Travelers Casualty Insurance Surety Company, Seisler Thompson Brown Architects Project Design Group LLC, and XYZ Insurance Company, matter number 025-61-741B, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Black.
Mr. Black offers for suspension. Is that second by Mr. Alborough? Voting on the suspension.
Verbal, yes.
Machine's open. Mr. Bartholomew. The suspension passes 9-0. Ms. Becknell.
A resolution authorizing partial settlement of Plaquemines Parish Government versus MAP Construction LLC, ABC Insurance Company, Travelers Casualty Surety Company, Seisler Thompson Brown Architects Project Design Group LLC, and XYZ Insurance Company, matter number 025-61-741B, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Black.
Offer.
Mr. Black offers.
Second.
Mr. Alborough seconds. Mr. Black.
Yeah, this is the last time we're going to discuss this particular lawsuit. This is going to be the last time we discuss this particular lawsuit, and we have one more defendant? All right. Well, I was going to congratulate y'all on a great job, so I'll wait. Settle it. I'm done.
Any other questions? Machine's open.
Verbal, yes.
Please make sure I'm here when the,
Blank. Then it passes 9-0. Could defer 11B.
11C, District 8 update, Councilmember Blank.
We'll just do 1 and 4, please. Thank you.
1, Highway 11 status update on repairs on road shaving. And 4, status of the administration's reactions to resolution number 22-27, authorizing and directing the administration to obtain RFPs for the Mid-Barrett Settlement Diversion Mitigation process.
Okay. All right, so Scott, there's some work requests that are maybe approaching 3 years old to shave some bad spots. People are getting some boat trailer axles broken and such. Understand there's a hydraulic attachment for a Bobcat that could help with this. People ask me weekly about it. I'm rattling my teeth out driving over these things. Is there any relief in sight? It's okay to say no, too. You just say no.
I didn't hear you.
Can we get some help with the road? We've got a hydraulic road, like, we got some issues. We got a hydraulic machine that could attach to the Bobcat. Can you help us out? There's a
Yes,
couple
sir.
high spots in
We'll
particular.
work on it, yes, sir.
But like,
Don't give my bags away.
They there?
all right.
I'm gonna get them.
And then for number 4, there was some legislation trying to get a request for proposal put together to do some outreach around impacts to Mid-Barrett area. Just wondering, is that out? Is it being advertised?
No, at this time, we've reviewed that request, and CPRA has intensely met with folks and put the mitigation program together, and it would be doubling that effort in the same way. The people we spoke to that's met with CPRA are very satisfied with their mitigation, and no one else really has approached me about any disconcerts about it. So it would be duplicating that effort and basically, just double it.
Sure, I just don't want anything to fall through the cracks. I
No,
heard
no,
much
no,
about
no.
fisheries mitigation and, the parish itself.
Yeah, most of the folks like I talked to in Suzie Bayou and on the outside, they were pretty happy with their offers, should I say.
Okay, all right, if you say so. All right, thank you.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm a piggyback on Councilmember Blink's Highway 11. I have a Highway 11 in Jessup Bend, and right in the middle of Highway 11, somebody put a sign up, a triangle sign, showing that the highway swerves, which I thought was a great sign because it kind of slowed the 18-wheelers down. I don't think an 18-wheeler should be on that road, but they do. They come in from the pink store, and it slows them down. So within a week or two, it's already knocked down. So I don't know if it was knocked down by a grass cutting tractor or knocked down by a four-wheeler. So did y'all put that sign up? Or would that be DOTD on a Highway 11?
Oh, it's our road.
You familiar with that, Todd?
I am not familiar with that at all, no. But engineering would have put the sign up if it was up. Highway 11 is our
Yes, what I
highway.
thought. It's not a state highway, so I don't know who put the sign up.
You like the sign? You like the sign? That's good.
Okay, well, I'll,
Get with me this week, we'll
I
find
will,
out.
I will, thank you.
Moving from the kitchen window view.
Yeah. Anything else, Mr. Blink? Next item.
Moving from the kitchen window view.
Agenda item 11D, District 1 update. Councilmember Bartholomew.
Yes, I have one item. I'd like to get the administration to send me a copy of all the surveys that was done on the levees since the hurricane, and give me what they have surveyed, and send me a copy of it from Carnarvon to White Ditch and from Phoenix to Bohemia. What was the end results with the figures on it? That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Agenda item 11E, District 7 update. Councilmember LaFrance. 11F, District 5 update. Councilmember Roussel.
Mr. Roussel, you want to defer?
Right there.
Hey, look, hold up. I don't know what it is.
Go, he's deferred that one. He's taking care of it.
11G, District 6 update. Councilmember Newberry.
Next item.
11H, discussion about safety issues with Taco Bell and Popeyes.
Phoenix to they went to Phoenix, and they went to Point La Hatch.
No one's here for K.
Give me a
Aye.
We did aye.
All right. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Black, the second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bartholomew. Machines open.
Verbal, yes.
Councilmember Blank?
And it passes 9-0. Let the record show we adjourned at 4:40.